Oh. Hi, everybody. So, welcome back to Big Apple Hockey. As I almost forgot to grab my mic right here, that would have been a little bit awkward doing the entire thing without a microphone. But it's great to be back. Another Wednesday, another show. And I, of course, am your host, Marc Williams. And I'm joined by Mr. Anthony Larocco.
Hey, Marc, I'm sorry to break it to you, but your dream of Tyler Motte returning is not happening, as he signed with the Ottawa Senators. But I mean, I could tell you he wasn't coming back to the Rangers. They just didn't have the cap space to make it work. But good addition for Ottawa. Good addition to Ottawa in their bottom six.
Yeah, actually, that is breaking news, and we're going to start with that right now. And I know that there's some Ranger fans out there right now going, "Oh my God, they didn't sign Tyler Motte," but they got Sammy Blais, who's basically Tyler Motte. They got, although Tyler Motte can at least go to center also. But I mean, it's not really that much of heartbreaking news, to be honest with you, Anthony. I really like Tyler Motte, but also the other thing is, a lot of people think Ottawa is going to like march the Stanley Cup and they're going to need him. No, they're probably going to miss the playoffs and sell him off at the end anyway. So the Rangers could get him in March if they really need to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know you're just making a point, exaggerating. I don't think anyone's saying the Senators are going to the Stanley Cup, but they are an improved team, man. You look at their depth chart of forwards. They got a good group. Stutzla and Norris and Giroux, DeBrincat, Kachuk. I mean, Batherson. Then you have guys like Motte in the bottom six. Formenton is a solid player. They still have to re-sign. So they got a good group of forwards. I mean, they're solid. It's just their defense and their goaltending, but they're going to be a much improved team. They're not going to be an easy out by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh, and I'm not saying that either. It's just everybody's got the shiny new toy that they just want to focus on. Be like, watch out for this team because this team is going to be there. I mean, I know Sanderson's going to be up this year probably. But I just don't see it yet. That's the thing about Ottawa. And especially that I still think now the reason why a lot of people are going to talk about it is because the Bruins look like the team that's going to be the one missing the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they're missing a lot of key guys to start the season.
But by the way, you get better on teams like this when you get a Tyler Motte into your lineup and your bottom six is better. And we're going to talk about a player who just recently signed and is really a bottom six player. I saw some tweets before about a certain player in the bar talk that we got who they said, oh, he would be a great top six forward. No, not for the Rangers. That's for one thing, but we're going to get to that in a second. First things first, if you happen to notice, I'm wearing my Big Apple hockey hat. That is what is available right now in our eBay store. There's only limited supply that I have. I'm going to probably order some more. Anthony, are you wearing yours?
No, I have it. I'm wearing my New York hat.
It's basically the same style as that one.
Yeah, Richardson.
Yeah. Actually, I should have grabbed a white one right before I started. But the big news, Anthony, and we could start singing it along, it's beginning to look a lot like hockey. Because the Rangers are opening up their mini camps or the rookie camp. And I didn't make a banner for this, so we're just gonna have to talk about it. So the Rangers have their rookie camp that they're doing. I know their tournament, they had the Flyers last year that they played against for one. And I have to say, so looking at the Rangers specifically first right now, what's the rookie you think is going to be the most impactful, or the rookie you're most looking forward to seeing?
Well, if he's still a rookie, Braden Schneider, I mean, he's the guy that's probably going to make the team for sure.
He's definitely on that.
Yeah. Other than that, I'm not sure if they're going to have another rookie crack the roster. I mean, they kind of like the Islanders have a little bit of crunch at the forward position. A lot of guys like, I know Gauthier is going to be traded most likely or waived, but they have guys like Gauthier and Hunt and Kravtsov, all in the mix. Trying to lock down roster spots. Not to mention they signed Ryan Carpenter. So like a prospect like Brennan Othman, I know a lot of Ranger fans are excited about him. I don't see how he would make the team. This is a guy that has to play really in a top 6 role, maybe the third line. But as it is, the Rangers seem to be locked up at the first 3 lines. Maybe at the expense of Kravtsov, but I'll tell you this: if Othman made the team and over Kravtsov, and they tried to send Kravtsov down, that would be the end of it for sure. He would definitely then 100% be traded at that point. So I don't know. I just don't think Othman's going to make the team just because of the numbers. And also, as you saw last year, teams don't like to waive people who could go through waivers. I mean, the Rangers, even though they didn't use him, they didn't want to subject Libor Hayek to waivers, so they kept him. So they're not gonna waive a player at the expense of keeping Othman on the roster. So I just don't see it for him this year making the team. I don't. I would be very surprised.
Well, even if they did go with Brennan Othman, it's going to be the first 9 games at the most, give him a little bit of a taste of the NHL, and then send him back to the OHL because he's got OHL availability, and that's just what's going to happen with him. So the guy that I look at in camp, and I've been talking about him basically all summer, is Will Cooley. And here are some of his stats from the Windsor Spitfires. But the thing about him is he's going to be more of a bottom 6 forward. And it's going to be, how is that going to work if, say, Sammy Blais goes down? So he's probably not going to make the team right out of camp. And it might be still a ways down in Hartford. I mean, there's other guys like Painemi or maybe even Brett Berard that could possibly make the team later on. But like you're saying before, the thing is, if Vitaly Kravtsov isn't on the opening day roster, it's a tremendous failure on his part, as well as everyone else's. So that scouted and that we're trying to develop this guy, because then in that case, what exactly did you see? That's the question I have to ask the Rangers about that one. And I think they're going to give him a decent shot at making the team. You argued he could have made the team last year. And if Philk was here, there'd be a much angrier reaction right now about how they handled it last year. But it's so other than that, the other guy to mention really is just Dylan Garand, who was the goalie for Team Canada. And I mean, who knows? He might impress and at least give a thought to the backup spot. Obviously, it's Yaroslav Halak. He's locked up. That's
cut you off there, Mark. It's not happening. They signed Halak to be the backup. They're not getting rid of him right off the bat. So
which is what I said. I didn't think that they were doing that. He's also, I mean, Halak is like 37 years old, so
yeah,
you never know exactly how much more is left in him. He's, by the way, Yaroslav Halak, 7th round draft pick of the 2003 NHL draft. Hey, Ranger fans, remember who they took in that draft? Hugh Jessamine. Tied in goals scored with me and Anthony. So anyway, Anthony, so talk a little bit about the Rangers. What about the Islanders, who aren't having the mini camp, but, what's the Islanders rookie that you're looking forward to seeing? And I'm pretty sure there's one of 2 answers.
Well, like the Rangers, I don't see any of them making the team. I mean, as it is right now, Kiefer Bellows, who they just re-signed, doesn't really even have a spot right now. I mean, their forward group is exactly the same. So for him to even make the team, that means, whether it be, Matt Martin this year, he becomes a 13th forward and you bump Parise down to the 4th line, and that opens a spot for Bellows. So the point is, I'll get to it, but Dufour and Ratu. But again, for either of them to make the team, there would have to be some relatively heavy lifting done to the roster to make that happen. I just don't see it. It's just not happening, because not because maybe they won't be ready or they won't be good in camp. It's just strictly a numbers game, and Lou isn't gonna, he's not gonna waive a Matt Martin, or he's not going to waive a Zach Parise or whatever, because he doesn't believe in, passing guy through waivers and losing him for nothing. It's very rare. So I don't see it happening. I think Ratu and Dufour will start in Bridgeport together, hopefully on the line. They're the Islanders' two best prospects, and Corey Proman ranked William Dufour as 77th best prospect in the league, 23 and younger. So those are the two guys that, maybe next year or the year after will make the team. But right now, I would be absolutely floored if any of them made the roster. Again, there's just too many. It's a numbers game. There'd be too many bodies that would have to move out for them to beat out. And the one thing here, well, what happens if William Dufour, outperforms Oliver Wahlstrom or whatever? I mean, probably not feasible, but if it is, I mean, it's good that Dufour would do that, but it's also wouldn't speak highly of Oliver Wahlstrom either. So, who they have high expectations for this year now that, Barry Trotz is gone. So again, I don't see any of the Islanders' young guys making the team. Now, Mark, if you ask me on defense, then that's a different question.
Okay. Well, who is the defenseman?
So it seems to be a three-headed race for that sixth spot on the left side between Sebastian Aho, Robin Salo, and Dennis Cholowski, who they just signed as an unrestricted free agent. My guess is that Aho probably has the leg up just because he's a little more experienced, but I think Robin Salo is ultimately going to win out. He showed in the preseason and also the action that he got during the year that he can move the puck. He plays the game with pace. And he didn't look lost out there. So I would hope Robin Salo wins the spot, but we'll have to see. But I would say he's the one rookie that it would be relatively safe to pencil in on the roster.
And you know what? I really like what I saw out of Robin Salo last year too. And it was one of those things that I thought that's when the Islanders really started picking up their plays when they got younger. And you got guys like Bellows and some of those guys in there because they need to get younger. There's a lot of age on that roster and a lot of tread on some of those tires, and they really need to do that. By the way, Tommy, I see that question. I'm going to save that for a Q&A later.
Green and Chara leaving reduced their average age greatly because those two guys were both, over 40. They brought their average age up by a lot.
I know, and it's one of those things. And as a matter of fact, the Rangers are being talked about trying to sign Zdeno Chara to a PTO. Matter of fact, in our group chat this week, it was Michael Stone, Hickey, and Chara were talked about for the veterans. Yeah. And you know, my answer was just, oh God, please not Chara or Hickey.
And Stone signed a PTO with the Flames, so you may be good there. And Hickey signed a PTO with the Devils, so you didn't dodge the Chara bullet yet, my friend.
No, not yet. But again, that leads me to one last guy that's in the rookie camp, one last defenseman, and that's Matthew Robertson. And I think he's one of those guys. Every time I watch him play, I just think even though he's not there yet, he could maybe step in and be that like last defenseman. I don't know. We're going to see about that one as soon as possible. They don't seem to trust Jared Tenorti, which is true because he's not very good. And also,
so it was Arthur Staple, the Rangers beat writer. He said that they were looking to bring in a veteran defenseman on a PTO.
Correct. A credible reporter, not like anybody that's like on Twitter. No, it was a good reporter. You see Frank Zavelli, you see Arthur Staple, Elliot Friedman, and you're like, all right, there we go. But I mean, and as far as a lot of those guys go, when you look at rookies like this, and you get like Nils Lundqvist right now, who's holding out for a trade, you get these guys that they're trying to change around their situations, and when you do that, there's somebody right behind you that could take your spot. So sometimes it would have just been better show up in camp and then get the and ask for the trade and everything else. Like sometimes with these guys, I don't understand why they don't show up. Like take for instance Vitaly Kravtsov going back to the KHL last year really didn't help his situation, and by that time now Brendan Ottman's more of a plan. Now Will Cooley's more of a plan. There's so many other things that happens. So that's the nature of sports. You either work hard or somebody else is going to take your job. It's just like that. that's my mini rant for the day. Trust me, everybody. There's a bigger rant coming later on in the show, but just to also remind everybody, football season is upon us. And if you click the link below, you can sign up with betus.com and get 125% bonus. We are going to be going over Stanley Cup odds next week, and as well as some futures. And we still got like a lot of stuff that we have to go over for the season preview coming soon enough, where we'll be all three of us together. We will make sure of that one.
Regular training
we had
camp.
A lot of stuff we got right last year, by the way.
Training camp opens a week from today. Most camps open the 21st.
Yep. And can't wait for that, Anthony.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that.
And then preseason games are right around the corner after that. So it's coming.
Because fortunately, hockey could save us from 9,000 missed field goals in a football game this week, because that Cincinnati Buffalo game. Oh my God.
Pittsburgh.
So that's what I meant to say. Yeah. Pittsburgh. It might as well have been Buffalo.
I enjoyed the football this week.
My
Bills dominated.
Yeah, they looked good. Your Bills looked good. My Dolphins, I actually got to watch a Dolphin game for the first time in years, and they looked decent. We'll see about that. I'm not gonna drink the Kool-Aid yet. But Anthony, let's do some bar talk.
Shot. This is the easiest I've ever had to answer.
I'm gonna say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually gonna go crazy. I'm gonna buy everybody around on this one. Well, welcome back, everybody, to Big Apple Hockey Bar Talk, where we are gauging our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. Are you so excited? You're going to buy everybody rounds? You're really not feeling good. You really need a shot. Or, so-so. I'll take a beer on this one. Go ahead, play along in the comments. Once again, everybody, the trucker hats are available. You could put it down in the link below. That'll lead you right there. And also, like, we got a million other things. I haven't even mentioned the manscaped, but trying to make money, so I don't have to bartend anymore. But Anthony, there was a great joke this week. Might have been last week. I got to share this with you. That the highest paid actors, I think it was hockey heavy hitters, but we stole the meme and put it on the Sports Brats, which is an Instagram sports satire page. But the highest paid actors, Ryan Reynolds, The Rock, and Igor Shesterkin. Now, Anthony, I got to ask you this question. Is Igor Shesterkin a diver?
I mean, I've seen him flop a couple of times. I mean, it's getting close to it where, if it happens, a couple of times, maybe early in the season or whatnot, he's definitely going to get pegged with that reputation. And, I get it. Goalies, they try to sell it to get their team in power play if they, absorb some contact. But at the same time, it's not a good look. You don't want to be a player that gets known or pegged for being a diver. So, like I said, he's teetering that line for sure. But, I would say he should definitely be careful with going over it, because then once you're pegged a diver, it kind of sticks with you.
So what was it? Beer?
Yeah.
And thank you. I gotta load that one up. And I'm gonna say beer too. You're expecting me to be the Igor defender and say shot, but the truth is that, look, all goalies try to get a call. All goalies are doing it all the time. They're all a little bit showy. And I mean, if you want to say something like that he's Russian, so of course he's going to dive, that don't say that either, because that's xenophobic, you prejudiced bastards. But it's everybody's going to embellish a little bit as far as a goaltender goes, because if a goaltender does it, they're likely not getting a call. That's for one thing. So yeah, I'm going to say there is a little bit of embellishing. He's not a diver though. He's not going to just fall on his face randomly. And I still disagree with, I think it was against the Boston Bruins where they pulled him out for concussion protocol. And I think it was Jack Crawford or maybe one of the play-by-play guys that just lambasted him for it. No, absolutely not. They shouldn't have pulled him out of that game, by the way. Donnell, by the way, on your question on NHL video games, I'm going to get to that later in the Q&A. I saved it. And also I got the other stuff the other comment that you had on there that I loaded. Anthony, going to the New York Islanders, and this is a topic I really wanted to discuss with you at some point, but it made it a bar talk topic. The Islanders missed their opportunity to be a free agent player.
I mean, what do you like? No, I mean, I don't think so. Yeah, obviously we all know they didn't do anything this offseason, but they didn't have the money to offer Gaudreau a contract, which they probably lost out on that because they couldn't really get serious with him. And then Kadri they had in the bag, they just wouldn't. Lou just wasn't willing to move it first to trade Josh Bailey. So, I'll say shot to this. I mean, next year is a different year. I mean, we'll see who's available and what transpires on the ice this season and what they need. But, like I said, this year, other than Gaudreau and Kadri, I guess they felt as free agent wise that there really wasn't anyone worth signing. I mean, I disagree. I think, Burakovsky would have been good and some other guys, but no, I don't think so. And I'll reiterate again. I mean, they had Kadri in the bag. They just wouldn't move it first to trade Bailey. So it's not like they couldn't, attract him, sign him. It was there. It was just Lou's stubbornness. So at the end of the day, like I said, he didn't add anybody this offseason. We'll see what happens next offseason. But I don't think this year has any long-term effect on them being able to sign a player in free agency.
By the way, just something that I noticed, and it's also going to be part of my answer. The shot guy, while he also covers up your face, he also stands right on the bottom of your window right there. Yeah. I didn't realize I actually worked that out so perfectly. Anthony, I know everybody wants me to say buy around, and I know I want to say I want to buy around, but I also have said before, I don't think that fits in the Lou's MO. And he's not really a free agent type of GM that just busts out for free agents. And Islanders are kind of one that spreads all the money around to everybody. So it's really not that much of a problem. You could always come back to it later on. Maybe, everybody seems to be on a $5 million deal for like 4 years, the way it seems with them. But, yeah, I know.
We're ready on the what list. So
I know we're on the shit list. But you know what? And look, I'm gonna call it like it is. But in this one, I gotta say, I don't think they missed. I think part of me wants to say that they missed it, but I also think maybe they didn't. Maybe just having more talent spread out around the lineup is going to work out. We'll see about that. I mean,
Lou seems to be more of a trade deadline guy. Like when the Islanders are in the playoffs, he's not afraid to make a deal to get a rental like Pajot and Palmieri and back-to-back years. But in the summertime, it seems like a different story. Like I said, he hasn't since he came aboard, and I had a post on this in the All Things Islander group, and then I get called out by a bunch of homers because God forbid you speak bad of Lou, but I called it like it is, and I said since Lou took over in the June of 2018, he has not signed one like impactful top free agent at the forward position. He hasn't. He signed middling guy, Derek Brassard, Zach Parise, Valtteri Filppula, Leo Komarov, Varlamov. He signed guys, but he has not signed a top six forward, a legitimate difference maker. He hasn't. And that's facts, and that's factual. It's not opinion. It's factual. He hasn't. But again, he's not afraid to trade for, a guy at the trade deadline. So it is
correct. I've gone over this a million times. I think even with you guys that I did this, that Lou Lamoriello, he doesn't sign free agents. He'll trade for those guys and then re-sign them. He did it with McGillney. He did it with Ilya Kovalchuk.
That was
Garth Snow.
That was Garth Snow.
And that's the thing. I mean, I think there's a narrative that's there. It's just I want to kill him. I want to kill him over this, but I can't. I can't do it. I don't think they were getting Johnny Gaudreau. And when Forsberg signed with re-signed in Nashville, kind of really wasn't that many guys to go after. But
I was
no one.
I was told that Gaudreau had interest in the Islanders, and they did talk, but they were never able to table an offer for him because they simply just couldn't make the salary work. So it's is what it is.
It is what it is. So again, you thought I was going to kill him on it, but no, I'm not gonna. They still were the only team to not sign a free agent. Anthony, speaking about free agents and somebody that we've talked about this summer, Evan Rodriguez is going to have a career best year.
I mean, beer. He what was he coming? He's coming off of like a 45-point year last year.
Yeah, I'll flash those numbers for you right now. I wanted to get the beer first.
You know, he's a good player. He waited a long time. Obviously, he didn't sign to yesterday, 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he landed on the defending Stanley Cup champions, who were an offensive juggernaut. So he's going to have every shot he can at having a career year. He's going to be surrounded by talent. And now, granted, he's not going to play like on the top power play unit or whatnot, but he's still going to get opportunities to produce in a fairly decent sized role. So yeah, it's very, very possible. The Avalanche, like I said, they score in bunches. They're one of the most explosive teams in the league. So I think he put himself in a good position to get a career high and then, earn a really big, or not a really big, but earn a bigger contract the next go around.
I really like this signing for Colorado, and it really gives you Alex Newhook insurance, because I think that's who they want to take the second line center job. They want Alex Newhook to jump up there. And what that does is then Rodriguez is a bottom six center that's in there. And that's something where I saw, and I was looking at Rangers Twitter before we went on, there were guys saying, oh, Rodriguez, he could have been a good top six forward for the Rangers. The Rangers don't need Evan Rodriguez to be a top six forward. Rangers would need him at the bottom if they did that. And Evan Rodriguez is a good bottom six center. I think he's starting to find that niche. He was hot for about 2 months for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and then was just dry as the Sahara for February and March of last year, or might even he got like a couple goals in April, but going into and he had a really good series against the Rangers. I think he had 2 or 3 goals, but it's including a goal in Game 7 that gave him the lead. But it's just as far as Rodriguez goes, he'll fit in great with the Avalanche because they're not expecting him to go carry the team. I think he's making that team. Because it's a PTO, right? That he's on. I forgot, or is it a 1-year deal?
Who?
Rodriguez.
No, he signed a contract.
Okay, so it's a 1-year deal. Yeah, he's definitely making that team. That's how you know, because he signed a contract. All right, something I should have looked up beforehand. Speaking about teams that also just had like a couple of extensions this week, Rob Thomas and Jordan Kyrou have 8-year, $8.125 million deals per starting next season. Anthony, the St. Louis Blues will have a cap crunch coming next year. And this is pertinent information for you first. This is what they got.
Yep. I'm actually I might surprise you. I'm gonna say shot.
Okay. Because
Vladimir Tarasenko is likely going to leave as an unrestricted free agent, and that's what, $7.5 million coming off the books. Mm-hmm. So I don't think obviously they'll still have to sign RRR, but at that point I think that they'll be able to manage that just by moving a body or so. So, but with Tarasenko coming off the books and not retaining him, then I don't think it'll be an issue for them.
You know what? I'm going to join you. I was going to start it with a beer. I'm going to go right the shot as well. There you go. Covering up your face again. But, yeah, Doug Armstrong's already planning for next year. He's already got these guys signed. You got him next year. I did the St. Louis Blues season wrap up on the Big Apple Hockey Podcast blog. And it's just those two guys are on the rise in Kyrou and Thomas. Sign them long term and get some discounts right now. They're looking great.
Doesn't that seem to be the trend right now with Thomas, Kyrou, Stützle? You pay a guy a lot, but you're banking on for them to really keep growing. And I think that's what the Blues here did with Thomas and Kyrou and matching deals. I mean, and listen, these guys are their future. like I said, Tarasenko's out the door. Even if they keep Ryan O'Reilly, he's getting older. Perron left, obviously. So, I mean, these are the guys that are going to be propelling them for the next couple of years. So they did the right thing to get them locked up, and, hopefully they continue to grow as a hockey player.
And I gotta say that philosophy is pretty much in a lot of places around the NHL right now, except Dallas. They're not, because there seems to be this pretty good player they're not paying just yet over there. But we'll wait on that one. Hopefully he'll sign sometime soon. Anthony, by the way, speaking about another good player, really good young player, I also got to ask you this question first. Who was one of your favorite players of the late 90s?
In the late 90s, Sergei Fedorov. I loved Sergei Fedorov. Obviously, Pavel Bure.
I make no bones about it. I am a huge Paul Kariya fan. I marveled at him after his first season in the NHL. He was amazing. But he was also the first ever Asian to be named full-time captain of a hockey team. So Nick Suzuki is the right choice for captain in Montreal.
I mean, I thought that maybe Brendan Gallagher could have been a fit to wear the C, but I mean, let's face it, Suzuki's more their future. He's younger. You could argue that he's their best player. I mean, ahead of Cole Caulfield. The guy, I already heard this summer he took classes to get better at French, because that's a big thing there. If you're the captain of the Montreal Canadiens, you need to be able to understand French and speak a little bit of it. So, again, maybe Gallagher I thought could have been, but I'm at the same time, I don't think Suzuki was a bad choice at all. Not to say that I'm a big believer in, just because it's your best player doesn't mean he should be the captain. I think that's a fact, and most people agree. But again, he is their best player. He does seem like a leave it all out on the ice type of guy. He does hustle. He plays with a lot of intensity at times. So yeah, I mean, he's a pretty good choice. Definitely, I'm not going to kill him for it.
All right, so it was beer on that one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, my apologies. I did it to you again. That's twice in one thing. You know what? I'm buying everybody around on this. I actually looked at all the quotes that were coming down from Jeff Gorton to his other teammates, him talking to Shea Weber, and immediately trying to gauge what he has to do. Yes, improving in your French really does help, especially in Montreal. But you know what, Anthony? Just they're talking about the maturity of this kid, and he's coming into his own. And it's fitting, by the way, that he's named the captain, since he was traded for Montreal's one of their previous other captains in Max Pacioretty. So, I mean, you got to love what you're seeing out of Nick Suzuki so far. Granted, I know the numbers aren't as great. That minus 49 sticks out like a sore thumb, but there's so many great things about him. And also, I mean, any chance I get to mention Paul Kariya is Philk is still alive, everybody. He works during the week. He works a 9 to 5. We are going to have Philk back on. Don't worry about that. He's gone nowhere. So, all right. But I mean, every time I get to ever mention Paul Kariya, I'm going to do it as well. But I mean, I love what I'm reading out of Nick Suzuki and what Marty St. Louis' thoughts on him were. And hey, Anthony, there's all this talk about Patrick Kane being traded at the end of the season, or where's Patrick Kane going to go? Jonathan Toews is a more attractive trade deadline piece than Patrick Kane.
Shot.
Okay.
I mean, Patrick Kane is a much better player than Toews. I mean, 5 years ago, I'm still saying Kane, but maybe it's not so definitive. But Kane is a better player than Toews. I mean, yeah, Toews has more intangibles, and he's the leader, and Captain Serious. I get all that. But Kane is a difference maker, and needle mover. Can really propel whatever team requires him to win a Stanley Cup. So I think they both will be traded at the deadline. I think that's almost a fact. But again, I think Kane is the more attractive piece than Jonathan Taves is. So I will go with Shot.
I'm going to go to beer, and here's the reason why I'm actually going to upgrade from yours. I'm not going to go too crazy. I think the fact that he's got such a huge price tag and that he's kind of had his health wane a little bit. He's kind of been a shell of what he used to be, offensively speaking. But I don't think you're going to have to give up the farm like you're going to have to for Patrick Kane, who's still arguably a really productive player. The other thing is, and that intangible that we were talking about, yes, the captain serious and all that other stuff. But Anthony, that is going to really impact a lot of trade deadline maneuvering, because if you can get a Jonathan Taves to be a third line center, talking about Selke Trophy winner, is he as good as what he was in 2013? Obviously not. But I do think you could give up less, get Taves, because I'm trying to figure out where Patrick Kane goes. I mean, he's got a full no trade clause, so he's got a okay where he's going. I mean, he probably will. That's a different story, but we'll get to that, and we'll get to that a little bit later in the comments. But that's one of my thoughts. And Anthony, the last one, and I've kind of alluded to this a lot, but John Tortorella will cost the Flyers their chance at Connor Bedard.
I'm gonna say Shot. I think even if Tortorella tries to tighten that team up, and he's a good coach, I still think they're going to be really bad. I don't think he's going to prevent them from getting Connor Bedard. But then again, I mean, I personally don't really think it matters too much. I think the Coyotes or the Blackhawks are going to be worse than them. So, yeah, I don't think he's going to cost them Connor Bedard.
I'm going to buy everybody around on this, because I think I just think Tortorella is too good of a coach. Look at that winning percentage. He's well over 500. I forgot who's got more wins. I wanted to look it up right now. It's either him or La Violette that have the most amount of wins for an American-born coach. I think it is actually Peter Laviolette. So I have to emphasize that because everybody hates it when I regionalize and blur through his name. But anyway, but John Tortorella he's going to tighten things up, and he's probably going to knock them out of the top 5, and they're not going to win the lottery and go all the way up to number 1. So I think that could happen. I don't have that much faith in Philadelphia, Anthony, but you know, this guy, why'd you bring him in if not to win games? So that's just my personal thought about that. Well, that is the end of Big Apple Hockey Bar Talk for today. And again, the hats are available. Sean, you were asking about it last week. Click in the link below and then go pick up the hat. I'll ship it out to you. So, I mean, I love this thing. I think it looks great. I wore it on Bethpage Black last week, which, by the way, don't exactly wear a brand new hat out when you're going to walk 5 miles on a golf course and up and down and all over the place. It's not the best thing. Probably wearing it. Hey, by the way, Anthony, I'm going to go to the Mets game tonight. First time all year.
Oh,
so
nice.
it's, I can't believe it took me till September to go see a Mets game. Usually I'm at least seeing a one away game a year, but
are you going to wait that long to see a Ranger game?
Oh no, I'm hoping to see a preseason game. I think the Devils. I was actually, by the way, I'll be honest with you on this. I was kind of thinking about going to Jersey for a Rangers Devils game, but I think it's the day they're at the Prudential Center is the day that I think it's one of the days I'm working, so I really can't do it.
Didn't we do the preseason game last year at the Garden? Rangers Islanders?
Yes, we did. Yeah, you guys can also see that footage. Big Apple Hockey at the Garden. Like, I would love to do that again, but I know the Rangers Islanders that's coming up in, let's see, today is the 13th, 12 days away. I mean, we're getting closer to hockey, Anthony.
Yeah.
Can't wait for it.
Yes, we are.
Can't wait for it. So, everybody, make sure you throw your comments down. You guys are doing a great job. There's always a lot of comments in here. So, anyway, I'm going to actually take off the serious face. Anthony, I do have one editorial again. Unfortunately, it's what comes up every year around this time. So this prediction that's right up here.
Being single most of my life.
Or just yell at Larry Brooks like every other New York Ranger. I really wish this was more joking right now, but Anthony, you remember where you were 21 years ago on Sunday?
Yeah, I was in school.
Yeah, what grade?
10th? No, 11th. 11th, I think.
Well, first off, thanks. Now I don't feel so old.
That's the 0102 school year. Yeah, so that was the 2001, 2002. I graduated. Yeah, so I was a junior.
All right. I was let's see, I had just turned 23. I was waiting tables at the time, and I went and I took a shower. And my brother Joe, as I was walking into the bathroom to go take a shower, he said a plane crashed into the World Trade Center. And then as I got out, and I remember visiting the World Trade Center when I was in 6th grade, and they actually told us that 747 could literally hit the tower; it'll still be standing. And then the second one hit. We all know what happened on that day. If you've seen any specials, and it's just the reason why this is always important, and we have to talk about this every single year, is because we need to make sure we don't forget. We don't forget what happened. We don't forget people that lost loved ones. A friend of mine, Chris, who was also a former goalie of mine, he lost his dad in that day as a firefighter trying to help everybody. And it's a sad day. And one thing that makes me very angry about it, Anthony, is when I go on Twitter and I see people that want to do some sports smack talk, and they got the nerve to use that imagery as like some type of like, hey, look, we're going to take down the Yankees this week. And like, no, shut up. Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. And it's one of those things I just want to look at the camera right now and scream, keep that day out of your mouth. But it's just people trivializing days like that. And again, I lived through it. I right before I walked out the door, the first tower came down, and by the time I had to walk 2 blocks to work. By the time I got there, the second tower came down, and it was such a shocking day for all of us. We just closed the restaurant, and we're a chain. We were Ruby Tuesdays. That would never happen, but it's just I can't stand when people want to trivialize it. And I've seen a lot of that. I saw a lot of that about a week before 9/11, and it disgusted me. And if you ever see somebody like that on Twitter, just burn them down. You go with your thoughts.
Yeah, it's just the best way I could sum it up. It was just surreal. I remember I was 11th grade, and I was in, I think it was math class. And I remember some like a foreign exchange student, oddly enough from Ukraine, I believe, came in, and, he just kind of in his accent said plane hit a building in the city. And at the time I'm like, I didn't really think anything of it. And I'm like, I just figured, one of those small personal aircrafts hit some building in the city, whatnot. But then as the day went on, started hearing people like talk about it, and you get a little more informed. And by the end of the day, I remember seeing psychology. It was like the second to last period of the day. They had it on TV. That's where I saw the footage for the first time, and I was just, it was like I said, it was surreal. It was in a little bit of disbelief. I remember people getting like called to the main office. I guess a lot of parents were taking their kids out of school, and yeah, it was a really weird day for sure. And then, like I said, it's never really the same. I know as so much time has go by, it may feel like it, but that really changed the world that day, to be honest with you. And one of the first like, I guess, feel good moments again after that was like the Mike Piazza home run. That was, I'm a Yankee fan, but that was like kind of chills up my spine. And, so many people needed that. They needed something to cheer and be happy about again. And, that was a really crazy time. And, just think just like us, our generation, we didn't live through Pearl Harbor, but there's so many kids now. Like if you're 20 years old, 21 years old, you have no idea, what went on that day other than, seeing footages from it since. But yeah, it's, every year I kind of watch, whatever news outlet they have, like the reading of the names, I watch it for a little bit, and it's, it's sombering to see how many people lives were stolen and that day. And, it's really, really unfortunate. I was fortunate enough where I actually didn't know anybody personally that lost their lives that day, but I know there's so many others that, lost their mother or father or brother or sister or whatever. And it's terrible. Feel for all of them. And oddly enough, Mark, I sent you that link the other day, which I never knew that Bruce Boudreau was supposed to be on one of those planes, but Andy Murray is, Boudreau's alive pretty much because of Andy Murray's decision to, hold him back. So, but that's crazy. I never knew that until I saw that just the other day.
Yeah, there were a couple guys. I wish I hear it all the time. Every year they replay it for NHL Radio Network, and Andy Murray wanted to have a dinner with his new assistant coaches, and some of them flew out. I should look up their names right now, but
Ace Bailey,
in the interest of time.
Ace Bailey was one of them.
Thank you. It's Ace Bailey.
Yeah, he unfortunately passed. He was on the plane.
Yeah, and never mind everything that happened that day, because what I always think about is whenever I think about that time is, and by the way, I'm sorry, everybody, I'm getting a little bit emotional thinking about it. Even though I was lucky, I was lucky at it. My brother Rob worked across the street and wasn't there that day. I didn't lose anybody there. My cousin, who was kind of trapped in the city, Joe Gentile's telling a great story about how it was so hard to get out of the city that day. It was frightening. You couldn't even contact anybody because the cell towers were being so overloaded. And yes, and you guys are right. It did change America. And there's at that time, I think about being at that Met game, the one you referred to, and I was there. It was me, my brother Joe, my friend Greg, Joe's friend Greg, and my grandfather who fought in World War II. And hearing him get emotional as he's talking about it. And I even kind of said that it's something that Andy Murray then has to live with the rest of his life, just because he simply wanted to have dinner with his coaches. I mean, imagine the amount of guilt you might have for that. But it's and the other reason why I get emotional about it is because if you ever saw the movie United 93, I mean, those people probably the greatest heroes that we've ever known, because they stopped what would have been the last attack. So,
which was probably ticketed for the Capitol or
the White House.
Or the White House, yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's you get the people that they want to make their comments. They don't understand that a lot of people just needlessly lost their lives that day. And David brought up a good point about that. As the further you get away from an incident, the more the less it becomes impactful, like Pearl Harbor. I also have to say that Pearl Harbor was in Hawaii. This is the first time we were attacked in the mainland United States by a foreign entity, probably since the War of 1812. And it's something that it should never, ever leave everybody. And we should always be thinking about it, because you never want to see that. Out of all the days, you never want to see that again. And in the coming month after that, definitely the most proud I was to be an American, because everybody came together. And yes, Thank God there was no social media that day. A lot of you guys are saying that. I like some of the stories that all of you guys are throwing in here. It's just, and you even heard it the first, and one reason why we're talking about this on a hockey podcast too, everybody, is the first sporting event that happened in New York after that. Do you remember what it was?
The Mets.
The Rangers versus the Devils.
Oh.
Unveiling Eric Lindros, their prized offseason pick, and John Amarante singing America the Beautiful and almost crying as he finished it. And here's Brian Leach, who's lost, I think, what was his best man at his wedding in the attack, and he's back on the ice. And there's just so much to it, and it's just everybody needs to always make sure. I'm just talking about this because we can't ever forget this. That's just it. We'll get around. Let's get the happier topics now, and move on. Collect ourselves. By the way, I do have to say, Donnell, I'm getting to some of your comments because I like a bunch of the questions that you've been asking in there. So let's start with Tommy's. Now, this is going back to the Stützle deal. What's NYR plan if Laffy doesn't go to the right wing? There's a logjam on the left wing. Don't draft the number one player overall to put on the third line. I have to agree with you on that, but also they're going to find a spot for Lafreniere, and even at that logjam is only available until maybe one more year because Chris Kreider is going to come up on his no trade clause, and if it's Lafreniere or him, I don't think you have to worry. Lafreniere is going to work out. What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll. I mean, I guess if they don't see enough of him playing on the right side in camp, they'll probably just keep him where he's more comfortable on the left side, and maybe he starts the season on the third line, and then it can, he can move up if the season goes, if his play warrants it. But I think they will try him out on the right side on the top line. But again, if he doesn't feel comfortable or doesn't look particularly good, they'll just leave him where he is comfortable, and that's on the left side on that third line. So, but I mean, this is a big year for him. If he wants to even get close to that Stützle money, he's going to have to score at least 50 points or so, or 25 goals or whatever it is. So, but yeah, we'll have to see. If he has another just like a 35-point year, then I don't think there's any way they give him a Tim Stützle type of contract at all.
I think for the Rangers' sake, they probably wish he can get 35 points, so that way they don't have to pay him that much. They could bridge him, and then once they're out of this, they're fine. But no, it's I don't think that's going to happen. There's that big hole on that left side. The right side of that power play, and you got Phil and I have been talking about this for almost 2 years now. You got to have a lefty shot over there for the one-time option, and also you have to. I mean, Lafreniere is arguably the better passer between him and Kakko, and you use that to facilitate Chris Kreider. So I just think it's right there. It's I think it's right there for him, and I would love to see Kakko get it too. I mean, one of those two guys. Put one of those two guys on there. You don't draft number 1 and number 2 overall to put them on the freaking power play too.
Talk about another make or break year. I mean, if Kakko still is only a 30-point forward after this year, I mean, I don't know when you face the reality of that.
Well, the other problem is these guys were drafted into the wrong teams. I've talked about this a million times. Their spots were kind of already taken. Kakko being a right wing was right there, and he was drafted to play with the worst coach. David Quinn does not develop talent, not whatsoever. Hey, Anthony, do you still play? Oh, wait, hold on. What's the dumbest Patrick Kane rumor you've heard so far? Anthony, let me go to you first.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's been like a a credible rumor, but I mean, people speculating about him being traded to the Buffalo Sabres earlier this summer. It's like Kane's not going to go anywhere until he decides it's time to go. But even though he's from Buffalo, he's not going to request a trade from one bad team to another bad team that maybe just has a little bit of a better future. That never that never had legs, nor was it ever happening. Now, is it possible that he would sign there in the offseason if, Buffalo showed improvement and, he wanted to end his career where he's from? Maybe, but it was never going to happen this offseason.
I'd have to say that's probably the craziest rumor, where it was, oh, Kane's going to go to Buffalo. Okay, what are they sending back? And that's why I'm having trouble trying to find the landing spot for him, because as you said, and you've heard from the reports, that his list right now around the deadline was the Rangers, the Avalanche, and the Islanders were 3 teams on his list. And
since then, I heard that he would be open to Dallas, and then it kind of morphed into, well, scratch all that. The reason why he's not going anywhere right now is he wants to wait to see who's good first, and then come the trade deadline. Hell, if the Florida Panthers are really, really good, then he'd go to Florida. Or if the Hurricanes were really, really good, look like they win a cup, he'd be open to Carolina. So I think that's part of the reason why he wants to wait to the deadline, because so he could see for sure who's good and who he has a legitimate chance to win the Stanley Cup. Because at the end of the day, Mark, let's face it, we saw it last year with the Islanders. Everyone predicted to go to the finals. He could say, he wants to go to the Hurricanes, just as an example right now, because everyone thinks they're going to be good. But, bam, injury to someone happens early, and then something happens, whatever, and they're a bad team. Now he was just traded to this team in the offseason, and they're bad too. Meanwhile, he could have just stayed in Colorado, could have stayed in Chicago and then saw who was good and then move at the deadline. So I think that's what's playing out in his head right now, that he's just going to wait and see and go from there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the waiting game. And as Homer Simpson said, the waiting game sucks. Let's play Hungry, Hungry Hippos.
Yeah.
Actually, Ronald, I thought he was going to retire already. I can't believe that he's fishing for a PTO. Anthony?
So, remember, Mark and Ronald, last year, he didn't sign with the Islanders until like right before camp, like this time of year. I think it was even later, maybe like around the 18th or so, where he signed the contract with the Islanders. So I think he's going to do the same thing again. I mean, I could be wrong, and maybe he retires, but I think he's looking to play maybe one more year. And the fact that, Staple mentioned him as a possible PTO for the Rangers leads me to believe that he is looking to play, not retire. But, we'll see. If he can't get a good fit close to home, because remember, he wants to stay close to his family in Boston, then maybe he will retire. But I think he is looking to play another year on maybe one of the, local teams here in the East. So, we'll see.
I do like Stevens that's at the bottom, but first let me get to Don Elsitz right here. He's got a couple good ones. What NHL video games do you play, Anthony? Or at least used to?
I mean, I used to play the NHL series a long time, but I didn't buy last year's, so I haven't played it in a while, to be honest with you.
But I haven't played in 3 years. And it's one of those things that I think there's a couple things that's a little bit frustrating about them. And that's, first off, I think they've neglected the main game, and that they've moved everything over to just Hockey Ultimate Team because it's the online casino for them. And it's like, oh, come on, guys. Can you actually make a hockey simulation again? And that's there. By the way, there's a list of the best hockey video games for my list that I put up there. So go ahead, feel free to check that out. It is one of my favorite videos. I always plug it, but it's just, it's something. Yeah. But it's Joe's got his frustrations with Kako, just to say the least.
But can you blame him?
I for one, I would love to see them put out a new video game again. They should move the license away from EA now.
Can you blame Joe?
I can't blame him. I can't blame him because unfortunately, like if you're like me, you got to like hunt for everything good about what you like about Kakko's game because you don't get to see enough of it. You saw it in the playoffs. You saw it when he had the go-ahead goal versus Tampa, but you also saw it when he missed the wide open net. I know. I heard all about it, Ray Ferraro. So even though he was on the show, great guest, but probably our best guest, I think I'd say. Steven, that's a great comment. Anthony, who do you got?
It's funny. I mentioned about Subban like prior years. If you look, because I follow him on Instagram, he's a big presence on social media. Like prior years when he had a contract, and he would always, it would always be him in the gym with, in the mix and getting back at it. And this offseason, none of his stories or anything has been gym related. It's just him and, traveling the world and wherever he is, Europe and concerts and whatnot. And that's not to say that he's not working out. He can definitely do that behind the scenes. He doesn't have to advertise that. But to me, it was almost kind of like maybe he's not prioritizing playing again and he's just, living life. So I don't know. I mean, who knows? I don't know what his intentions are, if he plans on playing. If he doesn't, as Steven's kind of in jest saying, he does have a personality that's made for TV.
He's going to be great for TV.
Yeah. So we'll see. But, if a guy still wants to play and still feels like he can maybe not get back to the level that he was, but at least be a serviceable defender who could play on the power play and contribute, then yeah. But yeah, again, I don't know. I haven't really seen any rumors linked to him. So I guess we'll have to see what happens in the next, week or so if he lands anywhere.
I guess my answer would be ESPN/TSN because they share
or TNT
the same thing. Yeah, he'd be great on TNT. I'll tell you that. But he lets it loose.
That was in reference. That was in reference to Chara, and I saw what she's referencing. But they said that it kind of had no relation to being back with the Bruins. It was just him, saying hi to some of the guys. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, would be a good story to end his career in Boston. Me personally, I think if he retired now, that's really because he ended his career who he started with. So I think that would be kind of cool for him. But I guess, listen, if the guy still wants to play, then he's, someone's going to give him the benefit of the doubt just because of his name.
Right. Like if the Rangers brought him in for a PTO and used him for, all right, there we go, for like a seventh defenseman and enough that his presence is enough to really kind of get a lot of these young guys to spring forward, then that's not a bad thing. It's just, it kind of feels out of place for Zdeno Chara to be a New York Ranger right now. I don't know.
I can tell you from being an Islander fan, obviously, I do think his influence on Noah Dobson, just on being a pro and learning the game, was huge. However, he's toast. I mean, his foot speed it got better as the year went on, but in the very beginning was like, oh my God, it looks like he can't even move anymore. But his foot speed is very, very diminished. I mean, on the penalty kill, because he's got a big body and a reach, he could still be serviceable there. But if I'm a Ranger fan, I would not want him on.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am on that. Anthony, quick question for you, because I haven't been to all three. Believe it or not, I have not been to all three. I'd like to take care of that at some point. What's your favorite of the three arenas?
You never been to the Prudential Center?
Haven't been in the Prudential Center yet.
Oh wow. I was there once or twice. It was nice. Shitty area, but look, I mean, obviously there's the allure of Madison Square Garden. It's, the world's most famous arena. Gets all the attention, but UBS is the shiny new toy. I mean, I loved it there. I thought it was really well done. I thought that like the seats there was really no bad seat in the house, similar to the Coliseum in that regard. It was really, really beautiful. So I don't know. I guess I'll say UBS just because I'm an Islander fan and it's a brand new arena. But I mean, listen, you can't. Madison Square Garden is called the world's most famous arena for a reason. And they did update it a few years ago. But speaking of which, isn't there the whole plan in a couple of years for them to totally redo Penn Station and the Garden? What would that mean for the Rangers and where would they play?
I have no idea, but the reason, And a lot of fans freak out about that. And by the way, I really hope the Rangers
shoe on the other foot.
Shoes on the other foot. Now it's now the one thing I caution every Ranger fan, and just say it like this: everybody relax. Why is it called Madison Square Garden? Because it used to be on Madison Avenue. So it's already moved around a couple times. Don't worry about it if they have to move it again. It's still going to be in New York.
Yeah, but that would take a long time just moving. So where would they play in the meantime?
Well, there's always UBS Arena. I heard there's
not a shot in hell.
They can go across the river. See, that's the question. And I also think, by the way, I think in all honesty, it's a waste of city money and everything else to try to move that arena. They should leave it where it is. That's just what they should do. Yeah. It's the perfect thing. Anybody coming from Long Island or even Metro North or subways everywhere, the path, all you have to do is get off your train and walk up a couple flight of stairs and you're at a hockey game or a basketball game or a concert or an event. Why are we talking about moving it? Why? Because
maybe Gary Bettman would put them in the refurbished Coliseum in the meantime. or better yet, he'll take a page out of the Coyotes college arena. He'll have them play where the Whalers used to play, where the Wolfpack play now.
Or send them to Kaniak Park or Long Beach, where they used to have their practice arena so many years ago. Wow, everybody's just hating on Kako today. By the way, I never even brought up the poll today. Which rookie is going to have the biggest impact in New York in 2013? Everybody's saying Brennan Ottman, but I don't think Brennan Ottman is going to be playing. So,
yeah, I think
there you go. And that's just one of those things I think about that. By the way, where is Steven's comment on that one? Steven was saying he really liked UBS. UBS is very spacious. And you know what, Anthony? One thing about it is it feels like it's an Islanders arena. That's one thing that's very important because after all, in 2009, Met fans, did Citi Field feel like ours as you walked into the Jackie Robinson Rotunda? So it was the Wilpons just never wanted to cherish the Mets. By the way, I still love Jackie Robinson. I'm just saying it seemed a little bit too heavy on the Brooklyn Dodgers. So
that's a good one from Steven. I forgot about that. The Barclays Center in Brooklyn.
Oh boy. Oh, then we can have a series clinching goal that that half the stadium couldn't see. Islanders finally win a playoff series, first time in 23 years. And there were fans going, what the hell just happened? So, and by the way, who was coaching against them that day? Gerard Gallant. So, maybe a college arena, but Dominic is saying, guys, I'm coming to NYC from the 5th to the 12th and hope to see the season opener versus Tampa. I just saw the Islanders play a preseason game at UBS Arena. How would I get to that arena from Manhattan? I believe the Long Island Railroad will take you right there. There's especially the westbound side the eastbound train. It actually comes closer to the state. That's right, Anthony? The one coming from Jamaica is closer. Yeah,
I believe so.
Yeah, because that's a great thing about UBS Arena. Look, the parking is disastrous, and the no tailgating policy still makes me. Are they still holding to that, Anthony?
I don't know. I mean, the only two things I really like, the negative things I have to say about UBS Arena is I don't like the parking, and the lack of the tailgating. I mean, that was the Coliseum had a great atmosphere at the tailgates, and we're second to none out there. But I mean, it is, if that's a trade-off to have a beautiful brand new arena, never have to worry about it again, then so be it. But that's really one of the only negatives I can speak to about UBS.
Yeah. I mean, I can even tell you the ice was pretty good because I played a game on it afterwards. I was supposed to have a video for that, but I never got it. I never got it edited and published. So it's a little bit too late for me to do it now. But I could do it and just put it on like a bloopers reel or something like that. But it was I was very impressed with what I saw with UBS, and I still never got to check out the speakeasy. So I have to get to that eventually when I'm down there.
So Mark,
right.
what are your thoughts on Jason Robertson still being unsigned? I know he was in Bar Talk last week, and I said shot of missing any games, which I still believe. But what are your thoughts on Jason Robertson not being signed yet by Dallas?
I think he's holding out for the best deal. And I think, oh, by the way, 2K says Uber is the best way to get there. Nice job, everybody, by jumping in on that to say what the best way is going there. My friend Scott's threatening me because I said too many complimentary things about the Islanders. Jason Robinson, I think they're looking. His camp is probably looking to get like more of an $8 million deal. The Dallas Stars, you might have to convince this kid to take a bridge, but he's got 41 goals, Anthony. I think he's scoring.
He just saw the deals. He just saw the deals that Stutzla signed, Kyrou, Thomas. I don't think he's taking, peanuts here, pennies on the dollar. I think he deserves to get around $8 million per year. And Dallas needs to be careful. I mean, he's their future. I mean, I think he's already their best player. Him and Rope Hintz are really the future for the Stars right now. As Sagan and Ben are not the same players they were. And obviously Jake Ettinger is a huge part of their future too. But I think 8-year deal at $8 million is fair. I mean, that would, or if you want to call it the same as Thomas and Kyrou 8.1, or would you even go to 8.5 for Jason Robertson?
Well, I pay him that much? Yes, he's worth
8.5.
But Anthony, by the way, I installed this one clip just to keep it, just to make my point, because I just have to say this to you. To be fair, I would probably say he's got to make a little bit less out of that, because they only have 6.3 left in projected cap space. So for this season especially, it's going to be tough. And I'm looking at their contracts right now. I mean, they got Hobby Bullen on. I didn't get to see what the comment was on that, but
it was Capo Caco for Robertson, laughing face.
Oh, I wish. That would be great. But the Rangers can't pay him either. So,
I mean, obviously it's fantasy land, but what would you offer in realistic, not Capo Caco? What would you offer for the Rangers for Jason Robertson? Like a serious offer?
When people were saying fantasy land for Patrick Kane, and they said Lafreniere and Kravtsov, or Kakko and Kravtsov, or Kakko and Lafreniere, that was fantasy land. Jason Robinson might elicit both of those guys, because what would I offer? I would say a young, ready-to-play NHL player with an established track record. So that's either a Kakko or a Lafreniere. A prospect that's getting close to being able to play. That would probably be maybe Brett Berard. A defenseman has to go in there too, besides Libor Hayek. So, because they don't want Libor Hayek. No one wants Libor Hayek. So I'd probably have to say that's where Matthew Robertson comes in, or Nils Lundqvist, because after all, he did request a trade. And you're probably going to have to throw in at least 2 first-round picks, because unlike Jack Eichel, Robertson is coming with a clean bill of health.
Yeah, I think Dallas wouldn't accept anything less than Lafreniere, Nils Lundqvist's a first-round pick, and then maybe another piece somewhere in there. But it would be costly. Yeah, you wouldn't get him for spare parts or Philip Hedl and Zach Jones. It would definitely have to be Lafreniere, I would think, to start the conversation.
But again, I don't foresee them moving at all.
No, and again, it's fantasy.
Jason Robinson. And no, you don't either. I know we're saying fantasy land. What would the Islanders package be?
So again, realistic. I mean, I would say that. Well, first off, just like they were non-starters, like guys like Adam Fox and whatnot would be non. For the Islanders, like Noah Dobson would be a non-starter. Matthew Barzal would probably be a non-starter, but I mean, it would. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a really good question. I mean, you're probably talking, Ratu, a first for sure, Oliver Wahlstrom, maybe even another piece like maybe Ryan Pollock. I mean, I don't know. Again, it would just see when you're talking about this type of player being moved, it almost becomes unrealistic in some ways. But then again, we saw guys like Jonathan Huberdeau and Matthew Tkachuk get traded for each other, oddly enough. So I mean, you never know. But yeah, he's not being moved. This is honestly more. I mean, this isn't happening either, Mark. But this is maybe a little bit more realistic because obviously it's not something that Dallas could control. The only problem is how many teams have the cap space to offer something realistically enough to the point where Dallas actually wouldn't match it.
Yeah, and also you have to worry about that because in that case you have to worry about retaliation. That's what's so great about what the KK offer sheet last year was.
You would have to because even if you offered him an $8 million offer sheet, that's probably what he's going to get anyway. So Dallas would just match that. So you're talking you would probably have to offer $9.5, $10 million to get Dallas to consider not matching it. And you know what the compensation is at that point, Mark, for that much?
I think it's only like a first-round pick and a second-round pick.
No, 9.5. No, 4. That's 4.
Oh wait, 9.5. That's the 4. Yeah,
4.
I thought you said 9.
Yeah. No, I think even 9 is 4 first-round picks.
All right, because I know Aho came in, I think at 8.5 or what the hell was that sound? 8 point, it's like 7.5 or something like that. I have to look it up, and that's why Carolina kind of laughed at it. I mean, the GM, I forgot if it was Waddell back then, who said, "I thought I was going to have to spend all summer renegotiating this deal. I just have to wait a week, and then I can just okay it." So, I do have a good trade proposal, by the way. It's it did have it over here. Let me get it from my buddy Scott. Hugh Jessamine and Dylan McElrath for Jason Robertson. And you got to think those guys, Dylan McElrath, who right now I think he's playing in the Penguins farm system, or he took an honorary faceoff. I know he's a captain of a minor league team. But
the only other notable RFA right now.
Yeah, he's definitely the most notable RFA. And that's why when we were talking about it last week, he might miss games. I don't think if I'm Dallas, I'd sure as hell hope he won't. He had 41 goals last year. I actually think he's going to break the 50 plateau. He would be one of my guys. I'll ask you more on that in 1 second. First off, Rich, I did see Shorzy. That show was actually really good and had no business being as good as what it was, but it was.
Rasmus Sandin is the other notable RFA really left.
Yeah, and one of those things that you get some Leafs fans saying, "Oh, maybe we don't need Rasmus Sandin." Yeah, you're gonna, because I don't like their defense. Donnell coming back at you again. I do think they're both equally good. I like Citi Field better. There's more to do at Citi Field because, let's face it, you're going to need some things to do when the Mets aren't playing too well. Thank you, Steve Cohen, for taking over this team. And but the new Yankee Stadium is almost like a theme park. But if you're ever at that center field bar, that is just that is a hell of a sight. And I know everybody wants to go see that. So I think both stadiums are pretty good. I like the Mets for more of a baseball stadium, and the Yankees is more of like it's almost like a Yankee Stadium theme park. By the way, Anthony, my friend Scott is coming in to talk about he's got this amazing picture of me standing with Glenn Anderson, and it was like at the last second, it was like one of those things where it's like, hey, Marc, get in the picture, and I'm like 3 levels lower. You know, my most hated New York Ranger of all time is Glenn Anderson. So yeah, it was fun. It was great. It was awesome meeting him. Would it be cheaper to offer sheet him? Yeah, it would be cheaper to offer sheet him, but I don't think. Again, I don't like offer sheeting, because the offer sheet is going to come back and bite you in the ass sooner or later. Here we go.
Marc.
Yep.
Do you have a fantasy football team?
Yes, I do.
How'd you do week 1?
My week 1, well, let me tell you this. I followed my draft strategy to a T. I drafted as much skilled position players as I possibly could, and then I got my quarterback in the 8th round. Guess who it was? Dak Prescott.
Oh, that sucks.
Oh God. Yeah. I actually won week 1 in my big money league with the bartenders around town. But it's the other one's hurting a lot. And I had in my other team, I had Joe Burrow as my quarterback.
Well, he had a rough.
Thank God he had 4 interceptions.
I won my week 1 matchup thanks to Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. They led the way for me.
His core, by the way, is saying Yankee Stadium feels a lot like an airport. It does feel like a lot up by the theme park. And no, Scott, I never liked Glenn Anderson. You know that. But it's one of those things also where now I'm like scouring through trying to find like a new quarterback, which reminds me I should probably look it up. That's great to do for hockey podcasts.
Who's the best quarterback available in your league?
Carson Wentz, I believe, was the one that I put a waiver claim in, because if he's going to be throwing to McLaurin the entire time, and McLaurin looks like he's going to be a stud. Yeah, I got Carson Wentz. I also had Justin Fields as my backup too. So, but he's going to be playing Green Bay. Green Bay's got a better defense. Wentz is versus Detroit. So
yeah, I have obviously I have Josh Allen, but I took Jared Goff as my backup. Hope I never have to use him other than a bye. But yeah, I'm set at the quarterback position, Marc.
By the way, with the way I talk about Ryan Strome, oh my God, I still haven't deleted the picture of Ryan Strome missing that empty net in Game 5. It's still yeah.
He's in Anaheim now, and
thank God.
Wish him all the luck, right?
Yeah, yeah. Wish him all the luck out there. May we never see each other in the Stanley Cup Finals. Also, because Ryan Strome will definitely miss an open net. So again, I actually let me just give you the highlights of, because I also got CeeDee Lamb on that team too. Oh no, I didn't. CeeDee Lamb was in my other league. I got Edward Solaire, who had a huge game and probably is going to have a huge season. Austin Eckler and that bench anybody good? Oh, and I got DeAndre Hopkins when week 7 rolls around, so that should be good. Yeah, or week 8. I mean, there's potential, but it's like, you know, there's 2 guys that you always see in fantasy. There's the guy that drafts really well, and then there's the guy that works the waiver wire really well. Yeah. I tend to be the latter more than the former.
I have Elijah Mitchell. I had him, and he got hurt. He's going to miss 8 weeks. So now I'm left with James Conner and Miles Sander and Antonio Gibson as my running back. So, not terrible, but I'm going to have to pick up another running back. My strength is really my quarterback and my receivers and my tight end. I have George Kittle. So,
yeah, who'd have thought that Joe Flacco wouldn't be drafted? I mean, Jet fans, if you were watching that game the other day, you were hoping for anybody. You would have taken the corpse of Sammy Baugh. Thank you. I was trying to think of a really old quarterback. I didn't want to say Joe Namath accidentally. So you would take the corpse of Joe Namath. No, you know what? You would have taken 80-year-old Joe Namath on that day. He probably would have been a better quarterback than Joe Flacco. Justin Burrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Justin Burrow would have been better than Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco, I mean, I made the joke, is there anybody still living off of one Super Bowl more than Joe Flacco? By the way, the answer is yes. And he also played in that game. That's all I'm going to leave that as. But it's, what NFL coach gets fired first?
Well, let's see. It's got to be someone who is expected to be good and is underachieving. So, I mean, I guess maybe. Honestly, that's actually a good question.
Yeah, Cora. I forgot who I called Anthony last week. When we went to when you dropped off, I said Anthony somebody, and then I went, no wait, that's not the right name. And somebody corrected me. I'm like, oh, damn it.
Could you imagine Bill Belichick getting the can?
I absolutely do not think that's right. Yeah. Anthony Lynn. Thank you. That's definitely not happening. And I know a lot of people are going to say Mike McCarthy. That's definitely not happening. Because by the way, their owners won't do that. Jerry Jones doesn't fire people midseason, and neither does Robert Kraft. And Robert Kraft wouldn't do that to Bill Belichick.
Mike Tomlin's probably safe in Pittsburgh.
So yeah, I'm trying to think of a coach that's on the hot seat. Because Chicago's got a new coach. Giants got a new coach. Robert Saleh should be fine for the Jets.
I don't see him going anywhere. And the Dolphins.
You know what? I think Cora might have this one. Matt Rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Carolina. Yeah, because nothing's working out there. Russell Wilson ending his post game with almost accidentally saying "Go Hawks." Wow, the things you miss when you're bartending. I was working that night, so I didn't actually hear that. By the way, Anthony, are we in? We're gonna ruin a little bit of the preseason special coming up next month, but first NHL coach getting fired this year?
Gerard Gallant. No.
Oh dear God,
no. Let's see. First NHL coach to get the can. What about if the Oilers start slow? Jay Woodcroft.
See, I think they really like him,
too.
And I think the trip to the conference finals might get him.
Well, there if they started slow, I'm saying, but
yeah, I'll tell you mine. I've been beating this drum for a while. It's Lindy Ruff. They start out slow. He might be gone by Thanksgiving. Like that's how. I mean, David coming in over the top. Cooper. Ooh.
I mean,
wow. If that happens, that would
what
be
about,
like.
What about this? What about Sheldon Keefe?
Sheldon Keefe, I could see happening.
If let's say if Toronto stumbled out of the gate,
that could definitely be one.
Marc, how many years now? Well, I guess we've been this is probably 2 off seasons now. Have we been saying after a Maple Leafs failure that Dubas has to change something, and every time he does not change his core? Now, so in that same vein, if the Maple Leafs lose again in the first round, could he conceivably again keep that core intact?
I can't believe that core is intact right now. And I guess this is where it's great that we circled back to hockey on this, because Anthony, I got to tell you, I was listening to Dave A. McCarthy yesterday, and one of the questions was, do you feel Toronto took a step last year towards being a playoff contender? And he said, yeah, I do. Okay. You could feel like that. You're still wrong. They didn't. You know how I know that they didn't take a step forward?
Because
they didn't win.
Yeah, and I hate the excuse they use. Oh, well, it's because they ran into the Lightning in the first round, and they were a really good team, and they did well. No, I don't care who they played in the first round, and it was an unfortunate matchup. They once again blew a series lead, mind you. They blew a series lead and failed to make it to the second round again. So how in the world was Dubas able to realistically say, oh, well, let's run it back again with the same core? When is he going to realize that the core of Tavares, Nylander, Marner, Matthews, Riley, all those guys making a shit ton of money have to be broken up? And again, I know they're not going to move Austin Matthews. I know they're not going to move Mitch Marner. But why?
And by the way, Austin Matthews is about to be a free agent after in 2 years.
But why would you not finally trade William Nylander, whose name has been up in rumors ever since that year where he held out for a defenseman? Mm-hmm. Or why not attempt to approach Tavares about waiving his no movement clause and moving him? Like, I don't understand how he could keep coming back with the same nucleus when they once again fail to get it done every single postseason. I'm getting heated. I don't even like them. I don't even like the Maple Leafs, but I don't understand how you can have that many years with such an explosive team and fail to move past the first round, and you keep it the same. I don't get it. Again, I don't get it. I'm not expecting them to move Mitch Marner or Austin Matthews, but how do you not do something? I do have
to say for starters, by the way, I forget if they're 0-7 or 0-9 in closeout games.
Yeah,
over the last how many years?
And then Brendan Shanahan too. What does he do? Like, it's acceptable to him. Okay, well, not only do I keep Kyle Dubas, but I agree with not doing anything. I mean, I don't without switching anything up. I don't understand.
You look at what happened with the Rangers, where they switched up. They went to Drury, and you could say all you want about everything that Gorton did. But the true fact is that Drury kind of put the finishing touches and his own stamp on this team, and that's why they got a little bit further. Now, when you could also say that, well, it was Jacob Trouba's elbow that basically kept them from losing to Pittsburgh. Sure, whatever. By the way, speaking about another team that hasn't gotten past the first round in years, they're the Pittsburgh Penguins, who everybody wants to go, oh, the Rangers, they shouldn't have won that series. Pittsburgh should have won that series. They should have. They had a 2-0 lead in 2 straight closeout games and a lead going into the third period in game 7, and they choked it because that's just, there are teams that, and now that one's more perplexing because that is a team with playoff experience. The Maple Leafs, everybody wants to try to say the Maple Leafs are going to be, and again, I'm spoiling future shows for us, Anthony, but yeah.
Now,
and
this question,
hate to say it, you ain't getting rid of JT.
Do you think his contract's movable?
No. I'm gonna bring up the contract right now, and also I want to see what Steven said right here of the last playoff series win for the Maple Leafs was so long ago that they drafted players that weren't even alive for it. That is correct. And also and we're gonna go right back to what David said right there, getting rid of David, and by the way, speaking about which, Dave is also kind of right about that one. But let me get the John Tavares, because I believe he's got a no-move clause, and it's a full no-move clause. They're still, by the way, they're over the cap.
Mm-hmm. And they have to sign around
$1.5 million. So, full no-move clause for John Tavares, $11 million, 3 more years. He's their captain. I mean, Anthony, first off, by the way, I know when people will often look to any guy in their life and go, well, that ex-girlfriend of yours, he dodged a bullet there. Do you feel like you dodged a bullet with John Tavares? Or do you think that you would have won a cup with him?
I mean, sometimes I wonder what Tavares would have been like under Barry Trotz. And maybe things would have gone different. But at the same time, I mean, look what happened when Tavares left. The Islanders had all the success, so it could have been addition by subtraction. It changed obviously the whole look of their team. Don't get me wrong, he's still a good player, but he's definitely not living up to his contract. And as he's getting older, he was never really a great skater to begin with, but as he's getting older, he's losing, speed. And at this point, yeah, even if he agreed to waive his no movement clause, it would be a tough contract to move. I mean, Toronto would have to take back another contract that's not great either. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Now, I mean, and Clash, we're gonna come back to that one in a second. Let me just highlight that. I when it comes to Tavares and David, I'm gonna highlight this one for you too in a second. When it comes to Tavares, though, he went back. He still has a lot of talent. The guy's still a great player. He's not necessarily Patrick Marleau as a Maple Leaf. Let's get that straight. Is he earning his $11 million? No, but that's why you overpaid to get him away from the Islanders. I think if the Islanders gave him $10 million and Toronto gave him $9 million, he was staying with the Islanders. I just think that's how it happened. That would have been the case. But I mean, Anthony, I look at this roster and I'm like, what are they missing? They're almost like a David Quinn coached Ranger team. They're top heavy on offense. They're offensive heavy. They're trying to make a defensive unit. They signed Calle Yarncrook, who is a good player at the age of 30, though. But I mean,
and then they got Kubel.
Nicholas Aubel, Kubel.
And then they just signed Aston Reese to a PTO. So those are good, pesky, bottom six players that would help them. But overall, I still don't really like their defense. Their core group has failed to get it done year after year. Will it be any different this year? I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing. If you're a Maple Leaf, are you feeling comfortable with Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov in goal? Because I could tell you, I'm certainly not.
Anthony, do you know when you play your men's league and you get a fill-in goalie?
Yes.
And you just you're warming up and you just wrist a shot. It's not even a good one. You're just throwing one to hit him in the pad and you're trying to do it on purpose. And then it goes in and you kind of look over at your teammate and just say, uh-oh. That's what the Leafs are right now because their goaltending is going to be bad. I don't give a crap what analytics said about Matt Murray. He has not been the goalie that's won a Stanley Cup in a long time.
This is interesting, and if this is accurate, I'm not saying I doubt him. Then that's very interesting. I mean, we've seen American players, Marc, that leave Canada the first chance they get. Gaudreau packed his bags and left. Matthew Tkachuk got the hell out of Calgary too. I mean, so yeah, maybe Austin Matthews is another American kid. Maybe when he gets his shot, he wants to come back to the States. It's certainly possible. But man, oh man, if the Maple Leafs let Matthews go, I mean that
I will tell you this. I will tell you this right now. And by the way, I still got this comment I want to get from David because I think I got to address that. But there is a no-win situation for the Leafs unless they re-sign him. Because if you have to say the words, we traded Austin Matthews, that's one of the most bombshell trades that's going to happen in the league in a long time. And we just had a really good one. Because I don't see another Huberdeau for Tkachuk trade coming.
But now they still have time, though. I mean, this isn't like Nathan McKinnon, who could be an unrestricted free agent. This guy, he still has 2 years.
Yeah, so, and by the way, people forget about that with Colorado. Colorado's got a lot of work they got to do.
I was just going to ask. I mean, the extension didn't happen. Everyone thought it would happen before the season starts. If you're an Avalanche fan, is there any reason to worry yet that Nathan McKinnon is not signed?
All right. Here's the thing. Anthony, hold on. You're gonna have to You're gonna have to go on without me. I gotta let my dog out to go poop.
All right. I was 1 second.
Oh, this is great, guys. This is riveting. All right. Hold on. Let me get back here because both of us can't leave at the same time. All right. There, Anthony, hold on.
Now, I just asked Mark the question. If you're an Avalanche fan, is it time to panic yet that Nathan MacKinnon isn't re-signed? I would say no, but for someone who's a fan of a team, the Islanders had experience with Tavares. Usually when a player doesn't sign an extension, the year before he's eligible to become an unrestricted free agent, in most cases, it doesn't always end up to go your team's way. I mean, obviously Tavares didn't sign a contract extension, left when he became eligible. Johnny Gaudreau did not sign a contract extension in Calgary last year, became a free agent and left. So, I mean, Mark, can you think of a player, an elite player, not a middling player? Can you think of an elite player who did not sign an extension with his team, but then ended up re-signing before he became a free agent? Because again, typically in situations like this, when a player does not re-sign, chances are he does make it to unrestricted free agency and leaves.
I'd probably have to say, I'm trying to think of it. Like, I mean, Brad Richards is coming to mind. Yeah, Steven Stamkos. There you go.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Steven Stamkos and the PK Subban trade to Nashville happened within half an hour of each other. So that's speaking about those. But thank you, Steven, on that one.
Yeah. One thing I'll add on that though, Stamkos did go to the talking period though. He came dangerously close, and then ultimately re-signed in Tampa Bay.
Very back. Got to go get him now.
And I guess you can count Philip Forsberg because he re-signed with Nashville this summer. But typically in these situations, the player ultimately leaves. Again, I don't think it's time for any Av fan to panic. But you would have liked to have seen McKinnon's contract extension done. And this is a guy that might break the salary structure here because he already took a discount when he signed his last contract. There was a report maybe a month ago or so that, he wanted to become the highest paid player in the league. And I don't know how accurate it was, but I mean, just like everything else in life, as time goes on, stuff costs more. Like just because McDavid signed his contract, how long ago was it now? 2 years ago, 2 years ago?
About 3 years ago. Yeah, I think so.
And it was 12.5. That's not McKinnon's fault. I mean, he's up now. Is McKinnon going to take less than that just because he's Connor McDavid? No, I think he's going to exceed $12.5 million. He's going to become the highest paid player in the league.
Stanley Cup winning player who's the star of his team, who's been an icon now there for years. Potential to win more cups with him. And I see Sakic paying him. I don't even think it's going to be much of a negotiation in reality.
David, I agree. I don't think it's any time for them to panic. However, I mean, typically, perfect world, they talked about it. He would have signed an extension. I mean, he's their franchise player. They just won a cup. Seems like a marriage that seems like it's destined to continue. Why not, why not get it done? I mean, and again, even if his intentions stay in Colorado, the longer it goes, let's say it comes to mid-season, eventually it comes to a point where the player gets the frame of mind of, okay, well, now I'm, 5 months away from reaching unrestricted free agency. At this point, why not wait to see what's out there, So that's why it's good to get it done early. It's good to get it done early before any sort of doubt can creep
exactly. In. And I think Colorado was clearing space for him. I know that there was rumors of them at one point trying to clear space to get Kadri back. And I think Kadri was kind of looking to see whether or not they could do it. They gave up on Nazem Kadri because they couldn't afford to lose Nate McKinnon. Nate McKinnon is, when you look at that cap, he's $6 million. Added on top of it, he's getting paid $12 million, I think. He's getting paid $12 million. And you know what? He deserves it. He really does. You took the pay cut for so long that just pay him. Now, when it comes to Austin Matthews, though, as opposed to say a lot of,
wait, did you say $12 million? You think he's just taking 12? No, he's getting more than
He's
that.
getting at least 11.
No, more. He's going to get paid more than McDavid.
Okay, then I'd be fine with
I'm
that.
telling you, I don't see any way he takes less than $12.5 million.
And again, I'd be fine with that. Yeah, I mean, that might be your hometown discount. Like, I'll take 12 million instead of 12.5. That's about it. But when it comes to McDavid, it's not McDavid and Matthews, I'm confused on where he's going to go exactly. I know a lot of places would love to have him. I know that there's always that thing about player X wants to go play in Y. Like Matthew Tkachuk wanted to go play in St. Louis or something like that. But St. Louis ain't going to have the money, for instance. And I don't see him going back to Arizona next year because the Coyotes aren't going to be ready to win. That's for damn sure. You're talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs. You're talking about one of the most prestigious organizations in the NHL, and they're not getting anywhere. See, that's a thing. Imagine the Rangers don't make that. Imagine the Rangers don't even make the playoffs last year. That's sort of where they would be with the Maple Leafs on that. The Maple Leafs haven't shown that they're going to win. And when it comes to them losing in the first round, they turn around and evict Jack Campbell, who was actually really good for them in games 5, 6, and 7. He was horrible in game 4, by the way. That's a different story. I'm not sure if he would have been the answer anyway, but I don't see where the next step of the Maple Leafs evolution is, for one thing. So I also don't see where Matthews is going to be. Like, I'm confused. I really am confused. I'm trying to be analytical with this as much as I can.
I tend to think Matthews ultimately will stay in Toronto. And I ultimately think McKinnon is going to stay in Colorado, but I'm just going to paint you this nightmare situation for you, Mark, just to make you not feel good. But and this is purely hypothetical. I don't even know what's possible cap-wise, but say it lingers with Colorado. Nathan McKinnon gets to a point where he wants to see what's out there, becomes unrestricted free agent. You know who he looks up to? You know who he looks up to as one of his closest friends?
Who?
Sidney Crosby. Can you imagine?
God.
Could you imagine Nate McKinnon wants to play with his pal Crosby before he calls it a career?
Well, I'm very, very, very fortunate that Ron Hextall took care of that for me. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there'd definitely be no chance for that. Speaking about a GM that's not exactly answering questions to his team's problems. But and I still got this comment I want to get through with Dave.
That would be,
but it's that would be unreal. But I also think that would be unreal. So that's the other part of that.
Yeah, because I don't think the Penguins would be able to make that work. But hypothetically, if and huge if he decided to leave Colorado, again, he is really close friends with Crosby, looks up to him. I'm sure that would be a team he would have interest in. Fortunately for us as Ranger and Islander fans, Penguins would have to move heaven and earth to make that happen, and I don't see it. But while we're talking about players and leaving and switching, you know who is Mark? Set to be an unrestricted free agent that I actually will on the opposite side of the spectrum and say I think it's almost a guarantee he's gone. Do you know who that player is?
No. Oh,
he his name sounds a lot like pasta.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent this summer, and there's already been rumor that I think he's leaving Boston. I do. I mean, there were already reports earlier this offseason, if you remember, about Pastrnak being traded. I mean, it was all BS. It wouldn't happen this early. However, I do think he's not going to sign an extension there. I think the latest was he wants to wait and see what happens. And usually when you hear that, wait and see what happens, that's not good. And you consider that his good friend Bergeron's probably only going to play for one more year. Krejci's likely his last hurrah. Marchand, he's still there, but I would say Pastrnak is good as gone in Boston. And that's going to be an interesting storyline to watch, because if they do slip and they're not a playoff team, you got to assume Boston has to trade him. At the deadline.
Yeah. Wow.
You can't
And you know what? That's a good point. And just by the way, one last word on Nate McKinnon. I can already do the negotiation for Joe Sakic. Eric Johnson comes off the books. That's $6 million. They have $1.3 million left. He's making 6.3 right now. Simple math says there's your 12.6. He makes more than McDavid. There you go. 8 years. It's over.
Yeah.
Going to what you're saying though, if Pasta decides to leave, that's going to really leave the Bruins not with much. I mean, you look at him right now, he's making 6.666. I mean, Marchand for 2 more years. Well, Taylor Hall is having a renaissance, isn't he? Taylor Hall is the greatest player I've ever seen.
I think Pasta's good as gone. I mean, this is a guy.
I have to agree with you. But you got Taylor Hall. So it's okay.
You're talking Taylor Hall. You're talking about Artemi Panarin money. He's gonna get a huge raise. He's gonna probably get up to $10.5, $11 million, definitely. And he's gonna be the most sought after unrestricted free agent this summer. He's one of the best goal scorers in the league, and there's gonna be no shortage of teams that line up for his services. I would be
between I think him and Matthews, we were talking about that. Or when you talk about the big time centers, I don't know where they're going to be, but I mean Pastrnak, everybody's going to want to go get him.
Yeah, he's gone. I think he's gone,
and he's only 27 next year. That is, he'll be 27, May 25th.
What's it, Larkin? Yep, Larkin is also set to be an unrestricted free agent, but I would imagine Detroit's going to do. I mean, they're a team on the rise. I would imagine Detroit's going to do anything.
And he's from that area. That's where you start playing in those numbers. If you could give him a decent contract, they're a team on the rise, and he's from that area. That's where all that comes in. Anthony, this comment I've been wanting to get back to for a while. That is John Tavares, the Toronto version of Shattenkirk. Both guys signed with their childhood teams, and it didn't pan out for Shatty in New York. It's not really panning out for JT in Toronto. The difference is for that, David, I have to address this. Every Ranger fan should be thankful to Kevin Shattenkirk, because Kevin Shattenkirk did take below market value. He was getting 7-year deals. He took a 4-year deal for the Rangers, and it was and he was getting $7 million offers. I think he signed with the Rangers for 6.4 or something like that. It was easier to move on from Kevin Shattenkirk for the Rangers. Now, it didn't work out. Yeah, and he came to the Rangers at the worst time. Tavares came to Toronto when they were going up. And the problem is you spend too much money and you only have an allotted amount. It's what's going to happen. You have to cut costs in other places. And your answer was to cut costs in goaltending. So that's one of those I just can't help but just go, oh my goodness. Clash, I know we've been talking about some other things, but I do think Robertson's going to get a good look at that one. And actually, at the beginning of the video, I did say that Cooley is going to be there. So Anthony and I then have to now start seeing. But now I'm catching up on comments, guys. Sorry. Between my dog and holding up on a couple other things. See it all over the league. No trade to Canadian teams for most players, but actually most of those are American. Most of those are the Canadian players that don't want to go there. Rick Nash was famous for that. It was like he had all the Canadian teams. I'm just gonna jump right to the end, Anthony. I think I got so many of these comments. But by the way, this is another reason why it backs up what you're saying. Marchand might be done. I mean, those hip surgeries, guys that usually come back from hips, there's always a surgery that you have to be aware of and go, the guys don't come back from that. NHL, it's the hip.
They're tough, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if he's gone.
I mean, that's why I think Pasternak's done. I mean, I think he sees Boston as an aging team. Again, Bergeron's going to be done. Krejci's going to be done. You have Marchand, who's still there, but I mean, I think he's going to leave, and I think if Boston's a bad team, they're going to have to trade him.
Anthony, you might be 100% on that, and the hard part is they're going to have to trade him before the end of the year at the trade deadline if they're going to try to go at it. they're going to have to try to get rid of. You're looking at New Jersey Taylor Hall right now, where they're going to have to try to move on from him sooner than later because, Anthony, I'm looking at their cap friendly right now. First off, let me start by saying this. They have $31 million invested in their defense and $30 million the next year invested in their defense with McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, and there's a couple guys that are still signed for one more year. Anthony, this is what's scary about Boston. Here are the following forwards that are signed next year. We'll go with just next year for Boston. Taylor Hall, Brad Marchand, Charlie Coyle, Jake DeBrusk, Oscar Steen. Wow. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 UFAs and 1 RFA. They are going to be going into rebuild if they don't.
Yeah, and they also have one of the worst ranked prospect systems in the league too. So
yeah, I mean the Bruins are going to get bad, and they're going to get bad quick. And yeah, once again, thank God you got Taylor Hall under contract. And by the way, and now, again, I've been on the Taylor Hall sniping train for a long time. So, I mean,
he rescinded that. He rescinded that trade request.
Yeah, he rescinded it. They paid him right now. They're paying him $4 million. So, I mean, I don't know how Jake DeBrusk would have made more money other than getting moved. I mean, I'm looking at the Bruins salary cap. It's not looking good. And their goaltending, you got to hope Swayman does something. I mean, with that, he's on the final year of his ELC, and Allmark is getting paid $5 million for the next 3 years. Anthony, they're going to be in dire straits, I think, very soon.
You know what? When Boston becomes a bad team, you know what you could circle back to and blame it on?
Taylor Hall?
No, you're obsessed talking about Bash Taylor Hall. The 2015 draft, one of the most deepest drafts in a long time. They had 3 picks in a row, 13, 14, and 15. And who they took?
Jeremy Lauzon was one of them.
What? No. Jacob Zabrol, Jake DeBrusk, and Zachary Senshin.
Oof.
And so they picked those 3 guys. Or they could have had Kyle Connor, Thomas Chabot, Matt Barzell, Brock Besser, Travis Konechny. All those guys were available. They took those 3 guys over. I mean, could you imagine instead of having those 3, having Connor, Barzell, and Chabot? Let that stew for a minute.
And by the way, just to say this for the record, I did know that they missed out on those guys. I screwed up. I said Jeremy Lauzon. I thought he was definitely one of those guys that was in there. But yeah, you're right about that. You whiff on 3 first-round picks. I mean,
and then you have elite players like them drafted right after. I mean, that's ugly. That's ugly. That's really ugly.
Now, I mean, that's very bad. That's very, very bad. And I mean, you talk about teams that are handcuffed. Like, Randy's here. Obviously, the Minnesota Wild are one of them that are handcuffed with those salary caps. But I mean, the Bruins, I'm looking at them right now. The Bruins just like, oh my God, they're going to have nobody on the contract for next year. They have 13 players under contract next year. And they're paying Anthony. They got to. You're right about that. They got to trade Pastrnak by, I think, January at the worst. I mean, I don't know. It's just gonna. I think that's a whole topic. That's a whole video that we should have done all together. And wow, I think Anthony just gave me a good a good article. I'm gonna have to do some research on all those, but there's just a lot of those. Wow, I'm actually speechless. And yes, you're right about that. I'm trying to figure out a short way to say it for you, but yeah, State, you're right about that. The Bruins, the Caps, the Penguins, they're all going to have painful rebuilds. I think the Capitals might be in the best situation because they got a lot of guys that can put in LTIR, like Nicholas Backstrom, who looks like he might be done. And wow. And you know what? And I gotta agree with this. I was they can fill out the rest of their roster with PTOs. That's good, David. The Wild will be okay because the Bruins are not going to the playoffs. All big players are out until Thanksgiving. Yeah, I know. Well, we went over that, but see, then they're going to make a late run. Then they're going to think, hey, let's get one more shot at this. And then the truth is that team that was in the Stanley Cup Finals in 2019, that team's gone. They're done. So, I mean, and as much as everyone's saying stuff like this, David, you know, because and again, going back to a different David, but the Pens rebuild will be painful because it will last the contracts of Letang and Malkin. You were correct on that. Letang's $6 million over 6 years. That's one of those that's I'm sorry, that's not going to age that well. And yes, every team in the first round, D'Elia skipped Sebastian Aho that year, and Sebastian Aho, god damn, that guy, I absolutely would kill to have Sebastian Aho on my team. The Islanders painful is going to be rebuild is going to be painful. No, it's not actually, Wicked. I'm going to say this for you. The reason why it might be at least tolerable, I'll use that word, Sorokin. And the only question for the Islanders on that, let me make sure I got this one right here. Because I'm going to the game, I only got about another 20 minutes, guys. So, but for the Islanders, let me just make sure Sorokin is an RFA and Sorokin is a UFA after 2024. So you might want to pay him now. I know they're paying him $4 million as it is. Ouch. And I don't know about they're set for the next 10 years, but they're set for a while. My thing is when you get a lot of guys that block shots and play as physical as they are, like Pelech blocks a lot of shots, it ends up wearing out everything. Like the players wear out sooner. Look at Ryan McDonough. Look at Dan Girardi. I know Ryan McDonough was still productive the last couple of years. Lauren, how's it going? You had several teams skip on Seth Jarvis. That is correct. And Seth Jarvis, hell of a player. Absolutely hell of a player. Core, I'm trying my best. So, but I am gonna have to go to the game. And yes, I have to get started early. And by the way, everybody, I'm so terrible at this. Just make sure you hit the like for us. I haven't even checked to see what our likes are right now. This is where the great thing about 18 likes so far. Yikes. Make sure you hit the like before you come in. We are growing a little bit. We're still a little bit stagnant. We finally went over 2,500 people. But let's get back to this. So Pittsburgh's rebuild, you're still going to have a couple years of Crosby. I think his contract's still going for another couple years, but I mean, Pittsburgh, especially, you're talking about the two guys that they signed, they still have lots of injury woes. Crosby is signed through 2025. I wonder where he would want to end up to end his career. Does he go to Montreal or something like that? And Gensel's re-signed until 2025. They're paying Brian Rust now forever till 2028. So there's another one. Jason Zucker, who seems to always be injured as well. Pittsburgh is just a team. Pittsburgh's going to have a lot of problems coming up. Jeff Petry's 34 years old. He's making $6.25 million for the next 3 years, including this one. And he will turn 35 before December. So December 9th, actually. That's when he's going to turn 35. Yikes. So that's not going to be any good. The Penguins, Jesus, they're just looking at this team. I caution a lot of Islander fans about the guys they have over 30. The Penguins have just on their defense, they got Chad Ruedel, Jan Ruda, Brian Dumoulin, Chris Letang, Jeff Petry. They're all over 30. And a matter of fact, the youngest one is 31. So, and then you look at their forward group, Crosby, Malkin, Zucker, Rust, Ricard Raquel is going to turn 30 in the playoffs, maybe if they get there. Jeff Carter's 37. And Archibald's 29. He's not really going to see the light of day. And there's that team is just so old. They're going to have a lot of issues, I think. So, and yeah, they're all the rest of us are just going to be. It's like Wicked, just like you said. That we're going to be like that meme of the little girl smiling as the house is burning down. That's what the rest of us are going to be like. And Jeff Petry trade was questionable. I agree with you on that. Wasn't Krill a 5th round pick? Yes, he was. Another 10 minutes needs an hour. No, I definitely have a limited time today. I got to make sure I adhere to that. So matter of fact, all right. I said 20 minutes, and I'm still going to do an extra 15, guys. So 2:40 is what I'm doing. There we go. 2:40. And I got an alarm going off. So, oh, by the way, Lauren, you just reminded me, and I've been using this today. What was the first couple words you had on there?
To be fair.
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 To be fair. To be fair, it was assumed Krill would stay in the KHL and never make the jump over to the NHL. If he had not given the impression Krill would have been a first-round pick, yeah. And that happens all the time. You get those guys that you just don't know whether or not they're going to be there. So, oh, hey, how's it going, AZ? And Wicked, I think you're right about that, but I think the Islanders can actually retool on the fly. The thing is, I don't know if they could do that with the current philosophy. I'll put it to you that way, without getting myself in more hot water with people in there. It'll be the Devils, the Canes, the Rangers at the top of the Metro for years. Well, the thing about that music is I think it matters who is coaching the Devils. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. It does not surprise me that I think it's going to be probably Andrew Brunette coaching this team by January. I say by Thanksgiving. I don't see how Lindy Rush gets there. What Ranger do I see making the opening day roster? Brennan Ottman. And I say that lightly because I think their bottom 6 is going to be pretty much settled. Ottman might make the team. They might have him play a couple games and send him back to juniors. He's going back to juniors. There's no way around that. There's no way around that. So, Islanders have such bad contracts. You know what's great? Oh, I might have not capped it as well. Lindy Ruff. I do know his name. Lindy Justin. All right. By the way, you know those memes or that all those sayings. Tell me your age without telling me your age. I love it that you said the Patrick division. It hasn't been the Patrick division since 1993, and I love it. I wish they'd go back to those. The Patrick, the Smythe, the Adams, and the Norris. So let's see. What's the standings by Christmas? Now, again, this is Christmas, so I want to be clear that it's not going to be the final standings. I'm just saying Christmas. I'm going to go the Rangers, the Penguins, because they're going to have a 10-game winning streak, because they always do. Then I'll still say I'm going to go with the Canes, third place, the Islanders, fourth place. Or the Capitals, fourth place, the Islanders, fifth place. And Columbus still really not breaking through yet at sixth place. And the Devils now having to take over and make up for a bad slide. And Wicked, I'm going to say that no, the Rangers are not as low as the Islanders. And the Islanders aren't really that. No, the Islanders are okay. I mean, I got to look at their prospects. Philk would be able to definitely give you guys all that. Here's the reason why. I think Pittsburgh and Washington are still going to show that they got something early on in the season, but they're going to fade away. That's just how it's going to be, especially with them. If I haven't mentioned it before, guys, if you're interested in the hats, click the link below, because I love these. I think they're fire. Yeah, I just used that word. That clearly doesn't sound right coming out of my mouth. I shouldn't ever say the word fire. I think they look great. Yeah. There you go. Very good chance. The Islanders regressed this year. Columbus is the one team in the division that's with the potential to swing upwards. Make a deal or two by the trade deadline to improve. I'm interested to see what Columbus is going to do to start the season, because they are still over the cap as well. Where the hell am I getting hiccups from? I can't even do anything. God, aging is such crap. All right. Projected cap space right now, 416,000 for Columbus. But if I recall correctly, and Boone Jenner is still on the IR. And they're going to activate their captain. And that's $3.75 million. So they still have some work to do. So still looking into some other ones. But the other thing about the Canes, because the Canes are a team that's going to be well coached for the regular season. The Canes are going to be great. And as far as like finishing up the season. So, I mean, I still see the Canes and the Rangers finishing 1 and 2 probably. But let's see. The thing is, I think the Penguins are going to wear down. There's going to be injuries on them because, again, speaking about which, they win 10 games in a row. They also have injuries that hamper their season. Mike Sullivan keeps them afloat because that's what Mike Sullivan is. He's a great coach. It would have been a shame for him to be the Rangers coach in 2014. Maybe they would have won it all. Although, again, Elaine Vigneault did a good job in 2014. In 2015, I can't kill him on that. If there were one Ryan McDonough foot treatment away from being in the Stanley Cup Finals 2 straight years and probably winning it, I think they beat the Blackhawks that year. The Canes will be in first due to their goalies haven't gotten hurt yet. You need BAH, or yeah, well, you know what? Thanks, David. By the way, I'm your other comment right here. I was 11 and 93. I would go back to playing regular Nintendo and having airplanes on my wallpaper. Yeah, that sounds like fire. Let's see, 93, I was 15. I just turned 15. Seems like the Rangers have an interesting first month. Tampa, Minnesota, and the Avs. Yep. I would not be surprised if the Rangers don't get off to a great start for the first month, but I don't see Tampa really coming out like world beaters right away. They usually don't. I think Philly is going to slightly overachieve because of Torts. You guys talked about it earlier, and you were right about that, Core. It's just John Tortorella is a great coach. John Tortorella, there's a reason why the guy, Stanley Cup winner. I mean, he went from a 2-time coach of the year, by the way. The guy knows how to coach. Just that simple. The Wild is going to be a really good team. Not as much spoken about, but tough team to play against. That I like that. And You just got to wonder about Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, he's up there in age. He's like 38, I think, right now. Or 37. I think it is 38. Now you can make me look it up. And Fleury is... Don't know why I had to sing that one. He'll be 38 by Thanksgiving. And how about that? Philip Gustafson, who's the backup, has got my birthday. Hey, that's nice. So, more useless information to spread around to everybody. Make sure you are hitting that like button if you have not done that. And see, we're so committed to content, we forget to whore ourselves out. 99% of YouTube is all about that. So make sure you are hitting that like button. I'm thinking about doing a watch along for opening night for the Rangers. So it'll be interesting to see me when as I'm drinking and watching the game. I mean, some of the shit I say during the game, I never want anybody to hear. Myself and Phil can say a couple things that you're just like, no cheering in the press box. Most of the players on the Canes are already back in town, getting some preseason and some practice and training. Yep. Also, Zook got hurt. Don't forget about that. They win the Stanley Cup in 2015 if Zook is wearing ear guards. I mean, what's a chance a puck fits right where his ear is? Nice shot. I think it was McDonough's the one that hit him. Let's go to Vinny Trocheck. Vinny Trocheck, in my humble opinion, I think that's what that means. I still don't really know all the acronyms. Will show how much he'll improve the second line center spot and play defensively, specifically in his forechecking. Well, the forechecking isn't so much defensive, but I know what you mean by that. I actually still think, Gene, I think that he should not play with Panarin. Panarin should be on another line, create different matchups. The Rangers do that. I think the sky's the limit for them after that, because they got the goalies and they could do a lot more. Oh yeah, they got Jesper Wallstedt in Iowa. Okay, that's a good sign for them. So in case there's any problems, they're going to get a guy with an entry-level contract. Delia is saying, I'm putting this out there now. 5 teams from the Metro and only 3 teams from the Atlantic. Bolts fall short. Remember, they were in a wild card spot late in the season. That's right. But unfortunately, like it is the Bruins, I see the Bolts being too top heavy to be knocked out. Almost same thing with the Maple Leafs. I mean, Jesus. I mean, that's a lot. Which retired Ranger you think they will need to retire his number? So he's already retired. And a Ranger. And Musics. Yes, I did say that. I'll go into the thinking on that in a second. Which retired Ranger? I think actually everybody's pretty much retired that needs to be retired now. I don't think there's anybody else that they need to do. And again, a lot of it came in kind of rapid fire with the Rangers over the last few years, because the Rangers are one of the worst organizations, and in the New York Mets as well, at honoring their past. And then you get an owner or an organization that they change the philosophy and they want to honor the past a little bit more. Great. And then it feels a little bit foreign to some players. Like, wait a minute, we only had Gilbert and Jacquemin's number retired. Eddie Jacquemin night, after that, he deserved to have his number retired that day. So, I mean, Eddie Jacquemin night was one of the most heartwarming events in New York history. I don't care. I mean, I know it probably is right there, right behind Mike Piazza's home run in the first baseball game in New York after 9/11. And that's how great that was. And again, we talked about it earlier, but the Mets and Braves hated rivals, and they shook hands before that game. And because they might have been in different dugouts, but we're all Americans. That's why, again, that's why it's just, and that day you should never forget that. So going with this, I think everybody's retired that needs to be retired. I don't think anybody's retiring Ryan Callahan's number any day soon. And I know I just said that out loud. I don't think they're retiring Yager's number. I don't think they're retiring Jeff Bookabooms. They're not retiring him. So you really don't have many more options. And John Van Beesbrook, maybe, but that's like an outside chance. But they should retire Hugh Jessamyn's number. Yeah, they definitely should. Okay. I've been watching The Dark Side of the 90s. It makes me so sad. The documentary films. And I vividly, yeah, by the way, that is true. How many points will Keandre Miller put up? That's going to be an interesting question. I don't think Keandre Miller, his success is at all going to be based on his points. I think it's going to be based on his we'll say plus minus. I know everybody hates plus minus. I still think it's important, but his plus minus is going to be effective. And if he makes another jump, watch out for the New York Rangers. The funny part is, by the way, that Filk and a lot of other guys, their whipping boy was always Jacob Trouba. And Jacob Trouba still had about 39 points last year. 10 goals, 30 assists, or it might have been 29. But still, that's pretty good for a guy that's not playing a lick of power play time. So, and the Rangers fates, there's a lot of, now again, going back to what I was saying with that before, actually, I don't want to put Panarin and Trocheck together because I think Panarin he controls the puck so much that he could actually be the guy to set up Filipino playing a center. Filipino's more of a shooting center anyway. So I think he would greatly help Hedl. That's my personal opinion. That's what I see. And then you create a third line. You can go Kakko, Trocheck, and I don't know who else after that. That alarm's going off. So we only got about 2 more minutes, guys. So what Islander would I want on the Rangers and vice versa, since these teams almost never trade? It's all a fantasy. JG Pajot now. I hate JG Pajot. But it's because he beats my team. I think JG Pajot would fit in great with the New York Rangers right now. But I think now what Ranger would the Islanders want? You don't need Chris Cross. You know what? It's Artemi Panarin. They needed Artemi Panarin on there. They missed out on him on free agent signing. So there you go. That's yeah. And by the way, guys, everybody, every time you promote us, thanks. We're doing our best. I'm trying to do my best to grow everybody. So I don't understand why the video is not working on my YouTube thing, but I got the chat going, so on my monitor. Oh, there it is. All right. Hey, we're up to 24 likes at least. So I think I got a new guy in the chat. Before I leave, I got to at least say hello. Oh, God, Sergei Zubov. Yeah. All right. See, Wicked, this is the great reason why. Yep. That's why you need user comments to check it back. Yes. I mean, Lou Gehrig's speech is above Eddie Jockerman. But it's, and by the way, Brian, welcome to the show. And I got to say this, Sergei Zubov is one of those that I just, oh man, I wish the Rangers never traded him. Why listen to Marc Messier? Get rid of him and bring in Ulf Samuelsson. Look, they made it to the conference finals 2 years later, but I'm not a big fan of dealing Sergei Zubov, who is now and rightfully in the Hall of Fame. So again, so yeah, you guys doing your jobs to promote us. Thank you very much. We're still trying to catch it all on. Yeah, Yager's number should be retiring in Pittsburgh. That's about it. But D. Ely saying Trocheck is great on faceoffs as well, but he's also Vinny Crosscheck. He only get called for 1 a game. Yeah, it's a lot better than, I mean, Ryan Strome, an offensive penalty every single game. Granny, thank you very much. I'll talk to you later. Ooh, that's a good one. I think we're going to have to get there. Yeah, I think we'll have to get there and talk about that one soon enough. Now, by the way, one reason why Scott from We Are Blue Shirt Nation, we used to go to games all the time, and he was ripping on me to say, like, I got a great picture with Marc and Glenn Anderson. One reason why I can't stand Glenn Anderson is because that was a guy that I wore 22 for. I wore 22 with the Ramapo Junior Rangers because it was I loved Mike Gartner, and that was back in '98. Yeah, and especially moved for Glenn Anderson. You know, it's like those guys that like walk up to you in school and write their name on the project at the very end and don't do anything. That was Glenn Anderson. See, I gotta look at all the guys that are gonna be playing this year for my Calder picks. There was a guy that I had that I wanted to put in there, and it wasn't Slavkovsky. I didn't have him in there. Oh, damn it. Who do I have? Yeah, Granny, I know it's I'm just as bad too. I want to get off, but I can't. I tell you what, the reason why Marco Rossi could be in there is if they end up putting him up between Zuccarello and Kaprizov, who I wouldn't be surprised if he's an MVP this year. Kaprizov, like he's been that good, but you know, I would say I want Barzell on the Rangers, but the thing is, the Rangers already have Mika Zibanejad, and you don't really need him. What the Rangers need to do is get Mika Zibanejad away from being the matchup center. I've been saying this for the last year, and it's not even that his line isn't good defensively. They are. Him and Kreider are very good two-way players, but if you do that, you free him up offensively. Because one of the reasons why Carolina was so dominant was because they can always match a match. They had two elite matchup defensive centers with Aho and Jordan Stahl. And if you guys remember when we were doing the Canes preview, our Hurricanes contributor Pete Mackin said Jordan Stahl won 67% of his faceoffs against Patrice Bergeron, and I nearly spit up the water. So yeah, I am not looking forward to that. AZ is saying Trouba gets too much heat. However, Trouba makes many plays during games that do not get recognition. See many poke checks. Yep, and breakaways saved. Yeah, but what he's got to do is he's got to eliminate those bad pinches. Think about the one on the Seth Jarvis goal in the second to last game against the Canes. So that was in there. Yeah. Yeah, and considering how well Gartner did in the 94 playoffs was just unreal that they dealt him. And then him and Doug Gilmour went off and almost took the Maple Leafs to the Stanley Cup Finals. 99 is retired around league-wide. Should 68? Nope, that's a quick answer. 68 and 66 should not be retired league-wide. Wayne Gretzky transcended the sport. That simple. Everything was all from Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky hosted Saturday Night Live badly, but he still did. So, yeah, Ottawa signed Tyler Motte. We got there. No, I gotta go hop in the shower. My ride's gonna get here soon. So, just a reminder: Ryan Strome was an Islander and did great with the Rangers. Zubov does not have enough years to retire his numbers. Yes, that's right. By the way, I mean there are lots of former Islanders that are former Rangers. And I believe the last guy to play for all three teams, Michael Grabner, in the tri-state area. I believe that's true. I got to double check that. Remember Joel Bouchard. He played for all three. And Mike Motto, and I'm just rattling off a bunch of guys. But when you have John Van Beesbroek as one of those, Beezer should have never been there. But So yeah. Well, no, yeah. Yeah. And Mike Gartner. Mike Gartner was just always a favorite of mine. And Marty Biron, Aaron Asham. Nope, Pat LaFontaine only played in the state of New York. He played for all 3 New York teams. One of Pat LaFontaine's great statements was, I was fortunate enough to play for 3 different organizations and never have to change my license plate. Yeah, I never liked Kasparaitis as a Ranger. But Kasparaitis was a great interview for us. He was such a great interview. Kevin Weeks is one of them. Yep. Let's see. The Mike Dunham, Kevin Weeks, John Van Beesburg. Those are the 3 goalies that played for all 3 tri-state teams. So, for the tri-state area teams. Yes. Aaron Asham played for all 5 teams in the Atlantic Division before realignment. All right. So, guys, unfortunately, I'm going to have to start signing this off right now. I also realized I put the music on too high, and I got to start playing my cousin Phil out. Because, well, hockey season is coming. That's the great part of this. And like I said before, once we start getting more followers and more stuff, then we're gonna worry about expansion later. But it's great doing these every single Wednesday. Who do you think was a better goalie, Richter or Beezer? Davey, I gotta go with. See, I love this question. It's one of the rare times that the Rangers never had a mistake that they made, because you had to choose between Richter or Beezer, and at the time I thought Beezer was the better goalie, but the simple fact is go with Richter because he was younger. I do think Mike Richter was the better goalie. I'm going to say it, but I love that. Yeah, I'm so old. I almost typed Steve Weeks. Yeah, Steve Weeks, well, much older, but I think Richter was the better one. That's out of the 2 of them. He was more athletic. He was able to go post to post. Van Beesburg, more aggressive, playing just getting out, playing the angles. He was really good with that for a short goalie as well. And then think about this. Do you think the Rangers win the Stanley Cup in '94 with John Van Beesburg? And do you think Mike Richter takes Florida to the Stanley Cup Finals in '96? Did I say 94 accidentally, or I said 96? I don't know. But that's a great question. I would love to see the alternate reality when that happened. So, Beezer does not have any cups. He had the most wins for an American goalie, I believe, and then he was passed by Ryan Miller, and I think he might get passed by Jonathan Quick this year. Actually, one question I never asked Anthony was. Actually, no, it's going to be coming in our season profile of when Ovechkin's going to score 800. And I can't wait for that, guys, because 3rd time in NHL history, somebody will score an 800th goal. So that's going to be amazing. I do have to get this up on for iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Guys, you can always check us out audio, so you don't have to worry about just watching me on YouTube or over at Boss Brokers, because I know the bartender there always puts it on at about 11 o'clock every single shift that he works. There's my shameless self-promotion. So, yes, both American. So again, everybody, and one of these days, I'm going to put up this song for everybody to download. I love this song. My cousin Phil is such a great musician, and it also sort of works for the podcast. And I'm definitely going to put it up and tag my cousin Karina, who's playing out in Huntington twice a week. So it's another great musician in the family. Runs right in her blood. So, guys, thank you very much, because I'll be going to the Mets game, my first Met game of the year. I am going to go see, and it's going to be great. Glenn Healy did not play for the Devils, Davey, fortunately. He played for the Maple Leafs, and then he retired, and then went right in the broadcasting. And so Going to the Met game, first time all year, and I'll be wearing my brand new Jeff McNeil jersey because that guy can just hit. I mean, one of my favorite New York Mets, period, right now. Even almost more than the Hall of Fame himself, Pete Alonso. So, and I love Pete Alonso. I think Pete Alonso is great. So, it has been great, as we've said all week. Can't wait for the next one of these that we have to do. And we still have a lot more that we're going to have to cover. Can't wait to be talking a lot more hockey. We'll be talking about the NHL camps and possibly even some game action. Still waiting to hear whether or not YouTube is going to do that for us this week when it comes up. Anyway, guys, thank you very much. Join us again next week, and we'll see you again soon.